Hello, and how are you all doing today? Black Lion Guard, thank you for the tier 1, brother. Revelating so hard this week. Indeed, we are. I hope you're all doing well today. We have more Final Fantasy VII Revelation interviews that have happened. According to Hamaguchi, he said that I'm ruining Final Fantasy VII. Not really, but also you'll see what I mean pretty soon by that statement. He said something that has quite a few people talking about the nature of streamers and how it impacts video game design and how you deliver an RPG nowadays. So, some pretty exciting stuff. Really looking forward to talking about it. Thunder's Productions, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs. I mean, for the 5 gift memberships. Wrong platform. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it. You've been on a roll recently, too, I think, with the past few streams. So thank you. Thank you a ton for supporting us here during this very hype, very stressful, lots of things happening time. It's great. I couldn't be more excited about all the recent revelations of things that are happening. Now, for those of you who have been following the Final Fantasy 15 playthrough, I want to assure you right now, right here and now, that indeed Pitias is still going to be finished. It is going to be finished on Monday. I know it keeps getting pushed back because, well, shit just keeps happening, and it's like, it's crazy. And I think we have like maybe 4 Hamaguchi interviews to go through, something like that. It might be like 2 or 3 actually. I don't know if some of these are like reposts. I haven't gone through all of it myself, but there's quite a bit to talk about today. So I hope you are all ready. Before we get into it though, how did you guys enjoy the stream? And by which I mean the stream with Maximilian Dude and Baby Seal and Blitz. Which one? You're right. I feel like this past week and a half, I have streamed almost every day. Or I've been on someone else's stream, which is crazy. I will be on HMK's stream for a little bit, probably later tonight. I'm not going to be on there the whole time because I have a lot of stuff going on, but I'm going to try to come through for a little bit and talk some KH4 stuff over on HMK's channel. But yeah, I'll probably only be able to pop in for like 20 or 30 minutes because I just have so much going on right now that I mean, as you can imagine, with all this stuff happening, it's crazy. Basically every game I cover on this channel has gotten a fairly substantial update all at once. And so I'm just like, yo, what the hell do I even do? It was amazing-rific. Thank you so much. There's also a new interview to Hamaguchi that is not covered. They're delivering one question every day. Today's question to Hamaguchi-san was, "What if we are in a sequel?" Oh, what the fuck? What the fuck? Okay, let me add that to our interview list. That's crazy. Is it legal to ask him that? I'm looking at the answer now, and the answer is basically exactly what I've been telling people. It's exactly what I've been telling people. Like, obviously, Their goal is to make you wonder whether it is a remake or a sequel. That's part of the speculation there. You're wondering like, are things going to change or are they not? And that's also what Hamaguchi is saying. And so yeah, that's that's the thing. Some variation of play the game to find out. Right. This is all bait. This is all bait. Like people argue over like etc. like a Hamaguchi bait post to get you to buy the game, and then they're like, ah, this is it. He's confirmed specifically what I believe, and then it's really just a statement that says, hey, dog, I would love to get paid, and you know how I do that? I sell you a video game. So if you could go purchase my video game, you might be able to find out the answers to those questions. And you know what? You know, goddamn what? Smart play. Smart man. Because honestly, man, it's like, like, why give people the answers? But also, too, who the fuck's gonna buy it if they already know? Right? Like, if you already know. Obviously, in order to make this trilogy worth it, and worth it, I know is like a very like subjective phrasing and depends on like what context you're using it in. But I mean, from the context of raising the amount of investment that you need to make this a trilogy to keep players interested long term in doing what they wanted to do with FF7 Retrilogy, that would require them to actually finish all of it. They could not have done, at least in their opinion, this is what they think. My assessment of what they think, which I know, they believe that they could not have done like a faithful remake narratively. They needed a new hook in order to get people excited and to continue to speculate and to continue to have interest in these games long term. There's a lot of debate on to what degree that happened, right? So I'm not gonna answer that. That's up to you. But personally, I'm kind of indifferent on it. But I don't want to get too far into that before we actually, get into the nitty gritty of all of these interviews. But the new hook got a lot of us much more excited than a 1-to-1 would have. Yeah, so I think when this project first started and I first had like a really negative reaction to it, I think my criticism was more with it on a conceptual level, right? But now my criticism is more of it on an executional level. So I've come around and I was actually like, oh yeah, if they did want to do something like Evangelion or like some type of like subversive not so straightforward remake, let's just call it that, to not ignite certain discussions, I was like, okay, maybe that is interesting. But I think now most of my now that I've gotten into that aspect, now most of the criticism I'd have of it narratively would be how it's approaching doing some of that, which is a bit more of my problem with that renewed lens. I think it's interesting, but I think some of the execution of it has been like a little all over the place. But regardless of that, I think that Revelation still represents an opportunity to land the plane. You know what I'm saying? Properly. And if they can stick the landing, then I think it's fine. NSP, why do I have a crystal next to my name? Someone gifted you a membership, a channel membership. That's why. Um, I watched the Ava remake a few years ago and it didn't hit me too hard. I'm gonna check out Ava from the beginning to see if it hooks me more. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So if you only watch the Ava rebuilds, then of course it's like if you only play FF7, if you only play FF7 remake without the context of the OG, right? Like it'll still be a fairly good watch experience, you know, like a good viewer experience, but it's still going to be lacking a little something when it comes to the experience that you would have if you had consumed Evangelion first and then you go and watch the rebuild films. Thunders, goddamn, bro. Thank you for another 5 gift memberships. Let's get that blue crystal next to everyone. I'm about to call us Walter White. Wait, we're giving everybody blue crystal. Let's go. Let's go. Rebirth kind of doing this Aerith half dead thing was jarring. I wish they committed all the way of her dying and not being revealed until the end of Revelation. So, I used to always say before Rebirth came out, I was like, well, the arbiters kind of ruined both outcomes, right? I was like, because now I won't be surprised if she still dies, and I won't be surprised if she doesn't die. So I was kind of just like, well, now they just ruined both. But then Rebirth happens. And then they were like, what if we did a third secret thing? And she's like dead, but also not at the same time. And so I was like, okay, fair play. Fair play. Because now I really don't fucking know. So yeah, just to kind of distinguish myself from a lot of the discourse. I don't really care about character fates all that much anymore. I've relinquished all that. I'm like purely along for the ride. I don't have any like any story theories that I'm like super clung on to. I have some ideas about where things may go, but but I'm not like, oh my god, I'm so set on this idea. I just I have most of my thoughts, theories, I guess if you want to call them, would be based on Nomura being the creative director and where I think he would want to take things. Um, because I feel like I know him well enough to know that he is deeply into subversiveness and creating something new and taking things in a direction that nobody saw coming and really surprising the audience. And so I think that the only guesses that are wrong when it comes to a Nomura work are the ones that are straightforward. So the simple explanations are probably the only ones that are wrong, right? Just by virtue of his taste and where he wants to take things. Um, I think like the straightforward answers are not typically correct if you know his work well enough. Is Jolene your favorite JoJo? She is closer to the top. But I would have to say the best JoJo is still Joseph Joestar, and I don't make the rules, but you know it, I know it, we all know it. Joseph Joestar is still the GOAT, still the best one. Every other JoJo is compared to how much they stack up to Joseph Joestar, and most of them do not. But I would say that my top 3 would be Joseph, Josuke, and then Jolene. Um, KH4 looks way more interesting than 7 Part 3 for me. Need to get into KH series now. Really? You're saying that as someone who's not into the KH series? That's actually crazy. That's actually really interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, 1 through 3 is now on all platforms. So, you definitely uh, can enjoy uh, the series right now if you want to. But honestly, they say 4 is going to be a new hopping in point. We'll see. I'm happy right now on how the story beats are going. Anyway, I think it's impossible to do it any way without making angry, upset part of the audience. It's part of the deal of changing the story. Even the original story have a lot of haters. Yeah, I mean, and that's probably the thing, right? Is that short of doing a shot-for-shot remake of the original, I don't think you could make everyone happy with this, especially even on a narrative level. You know, every remake, almost by nature, is super divisive. I don't know if there is any remake that isn't if you dive deep enough. There's certainly less divisive ones, right? Like Trails in the Sky. Trails in the Sky might be the only universally acclaimed remake as far as I know. But other ones, I don't think that there is really. Roy Mustang, thank you for the super chat. Give Taco Pika's original Sin a watch if you haven't. That sounds pretty dope. I'll add it to the list. It's an anime, right? Even a shot-for-shot remake would still have people hating on it. There'd be people who think they should have done more, taken risk. Yeah. Remakes. I really don't know if remakes are. There's just no way to really make people happy with remakes. RE2, dude, RE2 remake actually has haters, believe it or not. And that was like broadly considered one of the best remakes slash reimaginings ever. And there are people that motherfucking hate RE2 remake because they're like, they should have made more RE1 remake instead of RE2 remake slop, like our RE4 style gameplay slop. So, yeah, there are people that fucking hate it. Remakes, just by the very nature of what they are divisive. There is, I think, other than Trails in the Sky remake, which is the only one that I have not seen, like have really any haters. It's almost crazy. It's the only remake I've ever seen like that. But other than Sky remake, and if they do enough Trails remakes, I'm sure that eventually, yeah, RE2 took stuff out from the OG. Yeah. So somebody somewhere down the line, there are going to be haters. The only thing is that you just need more people who like it than don't. Blitz, what's up? That's proof that that you can't please everyone. Yeah, you can't. Not with remakes specifically. Not with remakes specifically. You just have to choose to try to make the largest amount of people happy, right? Ocarina of Time remake will be interesting for this exact reason. Ocarina of Time remake is going to be hated to hell and back. And this is something that I thought before I even saw a single reveal of it. I was like, people are going to call this shit soulless slop. And then I saw the reveal. And by the way, I'm not even someone who dislikes the art style of Ocarina of Time remake from what we've seen of it so far. I think it looks pretty fine. I think it looks like a more updated version of Twilight Princess. People are saying it looks like Unreal Slop. I think it looks like a more technically advanced version of like Twilight Princess's art direction, which I think is actually fairly suited maybe for an Ocarina of Time remake. Which, by the way, I think people forget that during the time in which Ocarina of Time was coming out, people had actually preferred a more realistic direction for Zelda to go in. And they kind of quickly forget that Wind Waker actually got a lot of backlash for being too cheapy and cute and anime and not realistic. The problem is whenever we hear remake, we concoct the perfect edition we hope to see and set our expectations, and sometimes they hit and they don't. Yeah, exactly. Roy, thank you for the super chat. RE1 remake, Dead or Alive 2 Ultimate, Trails in the Sky first chapter, Metroid Zero Mission are examples of universally acclaimed remakes. Thank you so much, Roy, for the super chat. Those are all, for the most part, I would say, other than maybe Sky, because Sky does kind of modernize Trails a bit, but or Sky a bit, but I think those are like mostly pretty faithful remakes as far as I know. So I think that's also part of it, is that if you're ultra faithful, then that's like kind of the only way to not upset people. But then if you are ultra faithful, it also kind of quickly runs into, well, then what's the fucking point? You know, this could have been a mod. This could have been a remaster. So, um, because one thing about remaking a game is that whenever you remake a game, you're almost inherently changing the art style, right? There's no way to remake a game and not change the art style, I would say. I know that sounds crazy, but think about it. Art styles are kind of determined and made around what the hardware is capable of, right? And so for you to remake that game with the latest lighting and the latest effects, you are then by transient going to be changing the art style no matter how hard you avoid it. The only thing you can do is choose an art style that honors the original, right? That's the only thing that you can really do with remakes. But changes to the art style and the visual appeal are going to happen. And because of that, people are always going to feel very divisive about the way the thing looks now. On the topic of the hate for art, I think the difference between then and now is how popular Breath of the Wild is. Wind Waker got a second win in 2010s, and Zelda hasn't had real art for almost 20 years. Yeah, so that's also Zoomers didn't see that tech demo or grow up with Wind Waker, right? Yeah, that's also the thing too. So prior to Breath of the Wild, the two lowest selling Zelda games were Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, and they leaned more toward the cell shaded anime aesthetic, right? Whereas Twilight Princess, still anime when it comes to faces, but it was a lot more textured and detailed. Um, and it kind of had this more realistic in between style that a lot of people were looking for at the time. And that resonated with people a lot more than the styles that were presented in, say, Wind Waker, right? And I'm not saying which one is right or wrong. I'm just saying that that's how it was at the time. So I think evolving Ocarina of Time in that way makes sense. But I agree with you in the sense that the Zoomers did not grow up with that. The Zoomer Zelda is Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, right? So I do wonder how the Zoomer is going to feel when he sees when he sees Ocarina of Time remake and he's just like, yo, what the fuck is this? So I don't know. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the interviews. Give me 1 second. Excuse me. Okay. Damn, sorry. Okay. I feel like I got another one in me too, but we'll see. Okay. let's talk about this. Oops. I got the whole screen on here. I don't mean to do that. Oh, it's the wrong one. That's why. This one's better cropped. There we go. Okay, FF7 Revelation director on ending the trilogy and why fan feedback can lead to a bland game. This one comes from VGC. Let's take a look at this article. Final Fantasy VII Remake director Naoki Hamaguchi has been absolutely everywhere over the past week. Over the past week? Bro, I'd argue over the past few years. This man has done so many goddamn interviews. It is crazy. I don't think he sleeps. So to cut to the Square Enix Los Angeles headquarters on Monday afternoon, when I met him by brandishing my suitcase ready to fly home, what was left to say? There is one thing, Hamaguchi says, when I asked him to spill a new revelation for VGC. What I'm about to talk about right now, I don't think I've discussed too much with the media before. A lot of people have asked me, when will players have access to the airship in the game? And each time I was asked, I would say 4 to 5 hours or 5 to 6 hours into the game because it depends on the kind of player. And when I say that, I think a lot of fans are probably wondering if it's truly possible to fit all the story segments from after the ending of Rebirth, because if you apply that to your original storyline, when where the party goes to the Icicle area and then the Northern Cave, some might be a bit skeptical if it's possible to fit that within the 4 to 5 hour range. So this part, I don't think I've talked about it too much before, but the way that the introduction of Final Fantasy VII Revelation plays out, I think we were able to come up with a pretty interesting story beat. The story sequence where the party gains access to the Highwind, I think the way it plays out is going to be pretty fun for the fans and might be pretty dramatic. So I hope they look forward to that aspect of the game. This to me sounds like quite a different opening section than a lot of us had originally imagined. It sounds like the opening of Revelation is going to be on a brand new story beat or a reconstruction of an existing story beat in a way that we haven't thought of. He says that it's going to be pretty dramatic. And I'm trying to think, normally in the OG game, there's a bit of a cooldown after that, in terms of the pacing. So something different they've come up with here to open the game, I think. It's going to open in Spira. I disagree, Subtext. I think it's going to open in Insomnia. That's where I think. Cloud is going to be standing outside of the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building. And he's going to say that my heart won't let go. It's going to be great. Both Tifa and Aerith will be there. They'll both be wearing Stella's outfit. And he'll be like, 2 Stellas. Whoa. Okay. So let's keep going. The exploding out gate. What? The exploding out gate reveal of Final Fantasy VII Revelation represents a change of strategy for Square Enix. Not only is it the first installment to launch day one across all 3 major platforms instead of as a PS5 exclusive, the publisher opted to focus on the epic story and characters FF7 is famous for, but on nearly 10 minutes on the gameplay. Not on the epic story and characters, but on the nearly 10 minutes of gameplay on the Summer Games Fest stage. Hamaguchi explains that Square Enix knows the broad gaming public is likely aware of Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith and their battle against an evil corporation, Shinra. but few non-players probably know much about the gameplay of the Final Fantasy VII series. This is true. You know, I know a lot of like action game heads that I think would really be into this. And I know a lot of people that just generally like ARPGs that I think would really love this series. But I don't think most of them know what the gameplay of the re-trilogy is actually like and why they should be hyped for it, right? So I think they all know that they're really compelling characters and it's a really compelling story. But I don't really think that they actually know about how good the gameplay is of these games. So I actually really agree. And this is also why I think Revelations reveal, again, is a million trillion times better than what Rebirth's reveal was. With the first two installments now available on all major platforms, SGF was an opportunity to entice new players to the series by showing the series in action. The goal for us was to use this opportunity to showcase the depth and gameplay of the Final Fantasy VII Remake series, to encourage players around the world to start playing the Final Fantasy VII Remake series before Revelation launches, Hamaguchi says. These past several days, I've been pretty occupied with all these media interviews, but our marketing members have been following the reception online and do notice a lot of people who are announcing they're finally starting the FF7R series for the first time. They're saying things like, oh, now's the right time for me to finally start playing Remake or Rebirth. And that's a really great thing to see for us. And we hope players continue to be excited for our series and Revelation. However, despite Rebirth sales falling short of its predecessor, Square Enix is pushing for a broader multi-platform future. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth isn't pandering to new players, Hamaguchi indicated. When I asked the director about his thoughts on topics like bringing in new players, there is an almost admirable determination evident in his responses, as if he's an auteur completing an art house series rather than some corporation chasing trends. Holy based. Let's go. And this is where things get pretty crazy, to be honest with you, because Hamaguchi like completely dials back. Previously, Hamaguchi and the people at Square have been like, you can start with Rebirth. Please consume product. Thank you. However, they're now dialing this back. They're now saying, do not start with Remake, which is what he says here. It's not the right approach to say that players can start with FF7 Remake series with Revelation, he says. We do not have to say you'll probably need to start with the first installment, Final Fantasy VII Remake, to have a full understanding of the story. That's crazy. So now they're saying, yeah, we're going to be honest, you need to go back and play the first game if you really want to get the most out of this. And I think, I don't know, man. I didn't expect them to be this honest and transparent about it. Because normally they are saying, please just buy product. You don't need to do anything else other than buy product. Buy product is the only thing you need. Please buy product. We need you. Please buy it. But now they're actually saying something that is not good for business. I was totally waiting for, you can start with Revelation. But they're not doing that. That's crazy. Continuing onward, and the abundance of minigames in Rebirth that made many players complain about, Hamaguchi isn't budging. In fact, he's adding more. I do have some logic with that idea, and I think it applies to mediums outside of video games, like films or television shows, he explains. When you look at all the critiques, the criticisms, the negative feedback, and try to understand what most of the criticism is, what the medium average user is saying, and to try to address that and adapt your product to it, it is questionable if that approach leads to a better product. Based. You know, because this is, you know, a kind of an issue that Final Fantasy 15 had, where they were playing everything by ear. You know, anything that fans were saying, it's like, oh, okay, we need to implement that. Versus having an artistic vision and saying, no, this is what the team wants to do, and this is what we decided, and you know, we're not doing that. I think a lot of modern directors don't really have the uh, spine, sorry to say, to really stick with what they're doing and kind of just make a slopified mass market product rather than making something that may exclude some people's taste but has an artistic vision. I think that to make something good, you do have to exclude some people, honestly, just being real. And that's not to say that we should go out of our way to exclude others, but it's to say that naturally speaking, some shit's just not for you, bro. And that's fine because some of the things you like are just not for me. And there's going to be things that I like and that you like that are different. And some things just shouldn't be for some people. I feel like in the modern world that has actually become almost like a radical thing to say, but it shouldn't be, right? Like some things are like just not for some people, and some things are, right? That means that some things you won't get to enjoy it because they're not made for you, and that's fine. Some things aren't made for me, right? Not everything in the world should be made with me in mind or you in mind. The artist should create what they want to create, I think. Continuing on, he says, if you were to address all the negative feedback and even take the positive feedback into account, sometimes it's the case that you're seeing two sides of the extreme opinions. By applying all that, it's possible that you come up with a product that doesn't really have any character. Yes, it's a blank slate that doesn't really have any strong appeal. Because of that belief, Hamaguchi says his approach is to take the responsibility for the big calls on behalf of the development team. 100%. I could not agree more. The other sad thing about this is that even when some devs pander to some players, they think that it means that those players will fall in love or even buy their product by default, which isn't true. Right. So sometimes you try to make that product for that audience and you try to pander and you're like, yeah. And then they don't even fucking care. They don't even fucking care. You have to make what you believe is good art. You can't be like, oh, we're gonna ultra try to target this demographic, or we're gonna try to like broaden the appeal to all these people, and then no one fucking cares because you just made slop, right? Your game, product, art, film, whatever, will appeal to people if you have made something that actually appeals to those people. But you can't try to force it in. You know what I'm saying? Continuing onward, he says, what I can say for Revelation is that it will feature as many mini games as did in Rebirth, if not more. I did not want to make a cut on that aspect. I did not want to reduce the number of mini games. We'll see how it turns out in terms of fan feedback, but I'll take that responsibility depending on what happens. That was my decision. That's not to say that the FF7 remake team ignored all fan feedback, the director adds. For example, those who didn't like specific minigames will now be able to skip them, and combat rewards tied to minigames have now been rethought. Which I think is actually a pretty good overall gameplay loop for the most part. I don't know how I still feel about skipping like all mini games, like having every mini game having a skip. But for the most part, though, like only tying combat rewards to combat stuff, I think is a good call. What was FF16's critical mistake by your estimation from this framing of target demographic? I think it was like they thought they could target probably the largest amount of the Western audience by trying to make something similar in appeal to Game of Thrones. You know, so Yoshida actually made the team watch Game of Thrones and basically told them like this is the target that we're aiming for. And it's really obvious that that's the thing, right? Like in all the choices that that game made were informed by the marketing data, right? So we need to make this like a high octane action game because our marketing data has concluded that that's what the younger audience is into, and that's what this audience is into. And so, like if you go through and read like all the things they decided, it was basically because well, when you look at the market, right? I mean, you know, like how would you feel if you got to talk to say like your favorite, let's just say musician of all time, and the thing like when they when you ask them about their decisions for making your favorite music, your favorite song, like your favorite album, they start talking about like the market conditions. And I understand that you can't develop a game without considering those things. But I feel like the magic would be like immediately kind of like zapped from the perception of what that piece of art was for you, right? Especially when you realize how heavily um, it was informed by all of those things. So you'd be like, dang, okay, that's really not that enchanting of a story to hear about, right? Yeah, 16 was all about trying to appeal to everyone and ended up not getting outside the FF fan base as much as they wanted to. In comparison, I'm seeing people want to try FF7R and KH after those after those trailers in the summer of gaming. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And like, you know, it's just proof that you cannot come up with something that is like targeted or that will have like mainstream appeal and then it does, right? You can't engineer that in a lab. You have to just come up with something and believe in it and then just send it out there, right? Persona 5 and Persona series in general is always my favorite example of this because if you told me that a dating sim visual novel that has dungeon crawling in it would be a 10 million seller, I would be like, nah, there's no way in hell, right? Like, if you were an investor, right? Wouldn't you be like, dungeon crawler dating sim? You'd be like, no, that's not gonna make me, you know, a couple hundred milli. That's not gonna be huge, you know, franchise growth. We're finishing Pitios on Monday, Frank. Roy, thank you for the super. Um, FF7R3 has the same problem as FF16 in terms of limited appeal. The trailer of 7R3 has 250,000 views. The trailer for P4 Remake has 2.3 million views. Yeah, I think that Persona is just a bigger series now, to be real with you. I think that's all it comes down to. And I think that a lot of choices were made along the way to make that happen on both ends. Anyway, continuing the interview. Oh, but again, thank you, Roy, for the super chat. I appreciate it. Hamaguchi clearly calls. Wait, did I skip something? No, I didn't. Okay. Hamaguchi is clearly making the calls that he feels are right to live up to the legacy of the original Final Fantasy VII series. Throughout the trilogy of remakes, the development team has lived by the philosophy that it should keep as many scenes from the PS1 game as possible. Even if, as the director explained on top of the As the director explained at the top of our conversation, they may have moved some story beats around a bit for the purposes of pacing. Even for me personally, I might consider some things less important, but fans may not think that way. So the goal is to keep as much as possible from the original, he says. That being said, there might be some changes we apply, an example being the sequence of the story beats. For example, if you look at the order or the exact moment where Rocket Town sequence happens in the original game, that should have happened in FF7 Rebirth instead of Revelation. In Revelation, or to be a bit more exact, the second half of Revelation, that's when the party visits Rocket Town, and the Rocket Town story of events happens there. We did make some adjustments in terms of the sequence and the order of how these story beats would happen in the game. But again, the general idea is to not make any changes or omit anything. The orders might shift up a bit, but in that sense, I think we're able to keep everything as close as we can. So I think the team did a pretty good job at that. I would say I'm pretty confident we were able to remain true to the original. If you only look at YouTube, it's not much, but across all social media, FF7 Revelation is tracking better than Rebirth, so that showcase is appealing to new people, and I've seen it myself. Not trying to start an argument. Yeah, Persona is bigger, but the point is new people are noticing. Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. And it's just because Revelation is a stronger reveal. I can show Revelation to any gamer. I can show them that Summer Games Fest footage, and they understand exactly what they're looking at, right? They understand, like, oh shit, this is an action RPG where I control this insane roster of characters who I've heard about are like some of the most beloved characters in gaming. I've heard this game has a really cool story. You can fly around an airship and jump off of it anywhere in the world, versus like the Rebirth trailer, which was like when you walk in. When you walk in, Strand type game trailer that did not reveal jack shit, and quite frankly was essentially entirely irrelevant for anyone who does not keep up with Final Fantasy VII. Like, you watch the Rebirth reveal trailer and it's just like, only people who are so knee deep in FF7 would actually give a fuck about this reveal. Whereas Revelation's reveal, again, I think any gamer could watch this and be like, oh, that's pretty tight. Let me check this out. And that's not even speaking to the actual game, by the way. It's just speaking to how bad Rebirth's reveal trailer was. Walking with vague messages and cool sound effects. Yeah, that's all it was. Like, what is Sephiroth's in-game? Okay? Cool statement, like, if you know what FF7 is. But why should I give a fuck if I don't even know who Sephiroth is? Or I've only vaguely heard about Sephiroth from, like, the gaming cultural zeitgeist, but I don't intimately know who the fuck Sephiroth is. I'm also asking what Sephiroth's in game. Like, legitimately, like, what is you know? They don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Like, yeah, in retrospect, Rebirth's reveal is kind of dog shit. I did not like Rebirth's reveal at all, like, when it first happened. I was low-key kind of, like, laughing at it. I was like, are they serious with this? I know everyone else was hyped, so I didn't say anything when it came out. And obviously, I ended up loving the game. But now that Revelation has done a much better reveal, I can finally mask off and say I thought Rebirth's reveal was whack as hell. Again, I want to stress, I did love that game. But that was legitimately like their absolute that was their absolute worst reveal, in my opinion. Roy Mustang, thank you so much for the super. Even Hamaguchi is exposing fraud Yoshida. Okay. I like I still like Yoshi P. I still like Yoshi P. We're not a Yoshi P hate channel. But I do vehemently disagree with Yoshi P's direction on 16 and where he took things. I want to keep that strictly at a professional level. I don't think he's a fraud. But I do pretty strongly disagree with that. Bloomberg just dropped a new article. I don't think we have. Okay, I'll have to look for Bloomberg then. Let's keep going because we got a lot of fucking shit, a lot of fucking ground to cover. Their marketing server, their marketing for Rebirth overall has to be generational in the worst way. Blitz, you're so right. You're so right. It like I feel like they really let Rebirth down as a game, honestly. For how good the game actually was and the way they approached selling it and revealing it, it was just so abysmal. Subtext, thank you for the super, brother. Their biggest marketing sin was doing a song at Game Awards like 60 days before the release that only landed with fans, no gameplay even. Yeah. It was amazing for me as a fan and someone who loves Nobuo Uematsu and someone who loves Lauren Allred's vocals. She's a beautiful singer. And her and Uematsu collabing was a dream. But Jesus Christ, man. That shit was only effective if you are so knee deep in Final Fantasy VII. And if you're not, who the fuck cares? So. Anyways, I think that this is a good mentality. I think it's great to keep Rocket Town and all the locations and all the scenes. It's okay to adjust the order. I haven't had too much of a problem with this throughout the trilogy. I think that if I do have any problems, it's more along the lines of what was changed rather than, excuse me, I belch a lot whenever I stream. I also get gassy a lot when I stream. You guys didn't need to know that, but what the fuck was I saying? Yeah, most of my criticism would just be around how they change certain things to like integrate the new narrative, right? Or how some of the new plot points can kind of rub up against each other, like Gina Talk and the Naki scene in Cosmo Canyon. I felt those things were a little too close together, but I don't think that's a controversial statement. I think a lot of people feel that way. Okay, and then to conclude the VGC article, one major pressure Hamaguchi's team faces with Revelation, of course, is how do you bring a conclusion to such an ambitious remake trilogy, which itself is honoring one of the most beloved and influential games of all time? The answer isn't something that's been left to chance, he explains. Obviously, I can't share actual details on this story. Obviously, I can't share details on how this story is going to end. But in terms of how we re-envision the conclusion, we did have some sort of idea of what we wanted to do at the end. So we did have a kind of direction from the early days of development. He continues, the same goes for the producer, Yoshinori Kitase. He had his vision as well, and some of that is applied in the conclusion that we're telling in FF7 Revelation. To be honest, I think we're pretty confident and happy how it's turned out. We're very much excited to see how fans will react to the ending of the story. So that's cool. That also implies to me that something is kind of different about the ending. Maybe that's just the way that I'm reading into it, but if it's the exact same ending, then I don't think you'd be too excited for how people are going to react to it, but yeah. Bro, gotta get a growl mic now for the paying subscribers. Yeah. Um, Kitase expressed in a promotional interview for Rebirth that he wanted the characters to have a more happy ending. I think it's possible. John Q, what's up, man? Um, I'm a hater. If you hated the reveal at that time, then yes. But looking back at all the mistakes and forgetting the feeling of that reveal, which was special, we all got to. I mean, no, it was special. But I'm just saying that, like, that was not a good reveal. I'm speaking from more of a marketing perspective than I am from a fan perspective. Speaking from like a perspective of frustration that this game could have been doing better and that the game actually was good and then they just purposefully undersold it, right? Do you understand why that's frustrating and why yeah, I would be kind of a hater of that because I want the game that's good to sell well and then they just made choices that I felt like did not make the game sell well, and that sucks. Andrew Brown, thank you for the super. Do you think Ocarina of Time remake will have multiple parts and a time traveling Ganondorf? No, although a time traveling Ganondorf would like not be un Ocarina of Time, right? You could actually theoretically make a remake sequel work with Ocarina. Just saying. Giant Monkey Butt, thank you for the super. Thoughts on maybe Angeal and possibly Genesis being guest party members for Zack, with Genesis being a boss for Zack, then a VR boss later. I do think it'd be interesting if the final boss of Zack's story was Genesis, right? And yeah, if they could be party members, yeah, I think that'd be great. But no, wait, I don't think Genesis and Zack would fight again, lore wise. So you're right. But I do think that Genesis will at the very least be a DLC or some type of VR boss. Link to the Past was kind of time travel shenanigans, right? I mean, Ocarina of Time is also time travel shenanigans. Remember when you get the Master Sword and then you travel into the future and you're an adult now? Yeah. Yeah, so time travel in an Ocarina of Time remake wouldn't be out of place, right? Ocarina of Time, if it introduced like a vaguely similar plot and it was like remake sequel to Ocarina of Time, would actually make more sense in Ocarina's lore probably than Seven R's, if I'm honest. But because again, time is kind of already a setup there, and time travel is kind of already a setup, so it wouldn't be as left field. I feel like um as Seven R, which I feel like is a little bit left field to have time travel in Seven R when that wasn't like a thing. I know that there's that whether there's time travel in 7R is highly contentious, by the way. But I'm just saying, like, let's assume that that is what the thing is going on. I am not sure how to say your name. Is it Sayeg Hasimi? I'm not sure, but thank you so much for the super. We should talk about guest party members. I imagine Angeal would be a guest party member against Genesis plus Minerva. That'd be really cool. I feel like Minerva is such a lore significant thing that it's actually crazy that Re Trilogy has not really uh, dove into Minerva yet. She kind of just comes up and it's like, wait, there's a fucking goddess in Final Fantasy VII. Sia, like the singer. Oh, okay. Sia, thank you so much. But yeah, Minerva is like such a lore significant thing, and then they just never kind of talk about it again. Personally, I'm not like I do kind of feel like uh actual gods and goddesses in Final Fantasy VII is a little contentious for me. I don't know how I feel about it, but we'll see. Nintendo Switch uploaded a trailer for Revelation. Interesting thing about it, it goes up to 1080p 60. Do you think it'll run like that on release? No way. No way. It can't. I can't even imagine. But that would be crazy. If they somehow got this game to run 60 frames on Switch 2, like a on performance mode, that would be ridiculous. But it'd probably be blurry as hell. Okay, let's look at the next interview. The director of Final Fantasy Revelation answers one of the greatest debates. Is the trilogy a sequel to the original FF7? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Is it a remake or a sequel? This is one of the biggest, most contentious questions with regards to the series. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he said. Is the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy a sequel to the original game? The director of Revelation responds. Since the release of Final Fantasy VII Remake, there have been many debates about whether the trilogy is actually a sequel to the original FF7. We're not going to ask you if it is, unless you want to tell us, of course, but we'd like to know if Revelation will put an end to the debate. Hamaguchi. First of all, regarding your question about whether the remake saga is a sequel to the original FF7 or not, I think it's best not to answer, confirm, or deny anything for now, as we will be releasing Revelation, the final chapter, next year. Okay. Which is so funny because people go back and forth about this and they're like, yeah, the dev said this, the dev said that. The official response is that we cannot confirm or deny that it's a remake or a sequel. So I think that's a pretty important part of this discussion, right? Is that everyone's arguing what it is, what it isn't. And their official response is, we're not going to tell you what it is. Stink Duck, thank you so much for the super. The Final Fantasy fandom is perhaps a bit more likely to self-sabotage FF7R. I think these interviews and Resonance coming hopefully might be changing the tone. Thank you so much for the super. A bit curious on what you mean with the self-sabotage, if you could elaborate. But thank you so much. What can I say? What I can say is that the overall concept, the idea behind the Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga, is to create a new world and a new narrative of Final Fantasy VII that includes all the elements previously shown in the FF7 spin-offs. In that sense, whether the Final Fantasy VII Remake Saga has any connections or links to the original FF7 story, it's a difficult question, because the answer is both yes and no. Both answers are possible. Personally, as the director of the remake series, my focus isn't so much on how Revelation connects with the other titles and the original, but rather how we can deliver a satisfying conclusion to the saga, especially considering that next year marks its 30th anniversary. All I can say for now is that I hope fans are eager to discover the big reveal at the end of the story and the answers we're going to give them. Well, chat. Maybe, maybe not. Go fuck yourself. I mean, he said it, not me. Yes. Bro literally said, yes it. YESN apostrophe T. Yes it. Well, yeah, I mean, what's up, Hylian? Who is going to ruin the biggest mystery of their story? in an interview. Obviously, the entire point is for people to wonder if this is a remake or a sequel. It's bait, bros. Like I said, I don't personally have any investment on whether it is one or the other. I know a lot of people do. I do have thoughts on it, obviously. Like my thought is that I think it's both a remake and a sequel. Like if you're just asking me honestly, uh what do I think has been happening? But I'm not gonna die on the hill. Like if we finish Revelation and it's like this was entirely a remake or something like that, I'd be like, yeah, cool. I don't care. Um, but I do think this is a really good question. I do think it also still says both a lot and kind of fucking nothing all at the same time. Um, I do expect something to be different about the ending because the way they have talked about it definitely makes me think that something is different about where things are headed. The new additions to the story do make me think something is different about where things are headed, but at this point, 6 years of arguing about this shit with people, 6 years of witnessing every possible discussion that could happen. Um, I'm just checked out of like having like a really set expectation of of what things are going to be. I'm just gonna say um it's going to happen. I think the second part of his answer basically confirms it's a remake of FF7 to fit into the compilation, and some people wouldn't consider that a faithful remake of OG since many consider the compilation material supplementary and or unnecessary. Yeah. Okay. Then there is this one. Hamaguchi says Night Sky Prince is ruining Final Fantasy VII. That's what he said. He said that I personally have ruined FF7. Here is what IGN's article has to say. Streaming can give free publicity to a game, but in the case of story-heavy genres like RPGs, there's a danger that people will be satisfied just watching someone else play through the game. Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy director Naoki Hamaguchi recently spoke about this, saying that gameplay streams pose a huge challenge to RPG makers as they need to ensure that the game is interesting enough that players will want to pick it up and play it themselves. Um, Danobra, is that how you say it? Thank you so much for the super. I hope Minerva is Genova. I doubt they will ever say if FF7R is a sequel or not. Also, calling now, the ending will be open ended. I completely agree. I think that they're not gonna say whether 7R is like explicitly meant to be like a sequel or not, but I think it'll have like subtext that you can read it that way if you want to, or you can just read that it's like a remake again. Kind of like shit is now, right? Kind of like shit is now, and they'll never explicitly say, and it's just going to be stuck in a fucking loop. And yeah, the ending will probably raise more questions than answers. If you know Nomura Tetsuya, you know that he does not give a fuck about answers. He prefers questions over answers, and they are going to they are he wants questions. He wants people to indulge the mystery. And so anyone who's thinking that they're going to go to the other side of the discussion and be like, "See, I fucking told you so," is probably wrong. Andrew Brown, thank you for the super. I think the ending will be similar to the original, but with some difference given how the remake series has gone. I hope they don't do like an epilogue, but I feel like they will do an epilogue. And I think most of you guys probably want an epilogue. I don't want an epilogue. I just want it to like, I want it to just like, you know, to be the fucking ending, you know? I want it to be I love OG FF7's ending. So if it does end like OG, I'm more than happy with that. That's like fucking awesome to me. Why not read the 4Gamer interview? Because if we read the interview from 4Gamer, then I think we're just reading a Google translated version. So I assume that this has had maybe a human translate it, right? So anyway, um, interview actually comes via 4Gamer. Hamaguchi warned us that, quote, one thing that RPGs like Final Fantasy have to pay attention to today is the risk that people might feel satisfied from just watching the stream without actually playing the game themselves. Not that he's noting that he's not completely against streaming. Hamaguchi highlighted that the issue with people watching games and not feeling motivated to play them. This is a crisis for the games themselves, or rather, not something that the developer can fully celebrate," said Hamaguchi. So, what's Final Fantasy VII Revelation's solution to this issue? According to Hamaguchi, it's vital that games offer enough player choice so that no two gamers will have the exact same experience. If people watch a game stream and it makes them wonder, what would I do in that situation? Or how would I experiment with that? Then they'll hopefully be inspired to try playing it themselves. Which I think is to a large extent true, right? Like, if you watch a streamer to experience a narrative game and it's an RPG, and let's just say arbitrarily they romance a character that you personally wouldn't romance, right? Then you're like, well, fuck. Now I want to play the game and go through that romance route. So I get what he's trying to say here. That's just like an arbitrary example. I get it. Apparently, Revelation will offer even more player choice than Rebirth, in a sense that each player's experience is different. Qualities that Hamaguchi feels are exactly the kinds of features that games need in today's era of streaming. The world is changing, and entertainment must evolve with the times. Yeah, it's actually really funny because I've seen so many people on social media today post this out of context, and now that I'm actually reading the article, it actually shows me that people did not read the article, because what I saw in the post for this was like people saying that like people saying like this is about like people theorizing on on FF7, and I'm just like, no, that's literally not what this is saying at all. So it's just kind of funny that like this kind of I really do think people only look at headlines. Yeah, people only look at headlines. It's so weird. No one actually reads. And this is the thing that terrifies me about ever becoming a game developer, is because I feel like I would say something and it would headline weird and people would hate me based on something I didn't even actually say, but they wanted to make a really sensational headline. And unfortunately, TikTok has like destroyed people's fucking brains. I wish I could just say it's Gen Z and Gen Alpha, but millennials are on there too, and Gen X is on there too, and the brains of people have just been like really fucking destroyed. And so The fact that people even sooner or later, I don't even know if attention spans will be great enough to even read headlines. It's so bad, but yeah. So I saw that, and yeah, that's not what that is saying. Um. Anyway, as it continues, in fact, choice was one of the conceptual words for Final Fantasy VII Revelation's development. However, Hamaguchi didn't go into details about whether player choices in Revelation will affect small plot episodes, such as the OG FF7's Rebirth Gold Saucer dating scene, or have a greater impact on the overall story. This is just recapping that there's agency. People don't read in general, not just articles, only skimming or checking a headline. They don't even read the games they're actively playing. I know. Headlines will need to be done in TikToks. I know. I know. It's getting crazy, bros. It is getting crazy. Okay. 9 revelations straight from its director. I don't know if this actually has any. Is this actually even a new one? Oh, wait. Yeah, it actually is a new interview. Okay. Just checking. Can we? Yeah, actually, there we go. That's fine. So the story wasn't changed. The story was not changed based on fan feedback. The idea of having a trilogy was decided from the very early stages of development. Where we would make the cutoff in terms of the story was a bit more vague, Hamaguchi said. In terms of how the conclusion of the entire remake trilogy is going to unfold, we had a pretty clear vision from the early planning phases of the series. We never really had any intention, nor did we adjust the ending based on fan feedback of the previous 2 titles. We had a very consistent idea. So, there has been some misconception when talking about this game that they're like, constantly adjusting this thing based on whatever the fans are saying, and that's simply not true. At least according to Hamaguchi. They've stayed rooted in their plan. I've seen some people say after Rebirth, or after Remake, it's very clear that they dialed back the story and wanted to be more safe with Rebirth, which I don't think is true, because even though I would say the broad strokes of Rebirth are more faithful than Remake, I think that when you when you get to the last quarter of Rebirth, it diverges even further debatably than Remake does. But yeah. I never believe they adjusted things based on fan feedback. I am sure there might be a few small things, but the scale of changes some people imagine are just not feasible to accomplish, right? People think that they change like the entire fucking story, or something like that, which is again infeasible to really do, even if they wanted to. So that's not going to happen. Continuing onward, there's less content bloat compared to Rebirth. If you found Final Fantasy VII Rebirth too overwhelming due to its endless supply of minigames, world activities, and some relief is on the way, Hamaguchi said that Revelation is cutting back on some of the cruft this time around to keep its open world from becoming exhausting. Whenever you have this epic open world format, a lot of fan criticism is that there is way too much content to cover and it becomes too much, Hamaguchi said. We faced that same criticism for Rebirth, particularly with the minigames. With that, we did take some fan feedback from fans, and we are implementing some changes for Revelation. We tried to address and alleviate their concerns, so we are putting some changes in Revelation so that the open world experience becomes more enjoyable. And I think most people are okay with that. Midgar is back, but it's not the full map. As part of Revelation's open world pivot, players will be able to return to some locations from the previous game, blah, 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 blah. let's skip to the Hamaguchi part. The game's experience of visiting and exploring Midgar is going to be a little different than it was in Final Fantasy VII Remake, said Hamaguchi. You won't be able to revisit all of the slums or all of the streets you were able to go around in. It's going to be a bit different in Revelation. I can't dive into the details too much because it would be a spoiler, but when you look at the overall area of Midgar, it is built in a way that retains the iconic elements of the world of Final Fantasy VII. I mean, I think that's fair, right? Like, think about how much content they would have to put in the game in order to make the entire Midgar relevant. You shouldn't be able to go around the entire Midgar because, quite frankly, there just ain't going to be enough shit to do there. There won't be. So, flying over Midgar is going to be the first thing I do in the Highwind? Yeah, for sure. The screenshot has a very interesting detail. Yeah. Oh, the grasslands. Very interesting. Oh, shit. Stink Duck. Holy shit. Thank you for the super chat. God damn, bro. $50. My original super chat was out of left field. When I posted it, I didn't realize I was watching live. Duh. I got another for you. Bloat in size. Did I hear somewhere that the size was comparable to Elden Ring? Is that true? Thanks, King. I don't know if I have seen any comparisons to Elden Ring. But judging by how big Rebirth is, and considering that this game encompasses all of that map size, plus Wutai, plus Mediel, right? Plus Icicle Inn, like, fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, Jesus Christ. So I would say a comparable map size to Elden Ring does not sound far-fetched to me at all, you know? Yeah, plus Midgar outskirts. Yeah, like, dude, it's so much. It's so much. Plus the fact that, like, much of the map has been redone, right? Because of the weapons, so. So moving onward, the gold saucer is the home to a Queen's Blood hub. So Queen's Blood is back, of course. The gold saucer was separated into distinct squares. There was the Wandering Square, an area that had G-Bike, and then the snowboarding minigame that was under construction in Rebirth, Hamaguchi said. What's going to happen in that area in Revelation is that, due to the immense popularity of Queen's Blood, the square has been completely taken over by Queen's Blood. All that area is going to be Queen's Blood content. That sounds awesome. More Queen's Blood content is great. I think it should be main story content, some of it, but I digress. A lot of people might have this impression that he has a strong and... Oh, wait. Let me actually read the... Sid will show his softer side. I feel like Sid has only been showing his softer side. When is Sid going to be hard? I want to see Sid get hard, chat. I want to see Sid be hard. A lot of people might have this impression that he has this strong, difficult personality. I don't see him that way, Hamaguchi said. One thing about how he's going to be portrayed in Revelation is that, in the original game, players would visit Rocket Town before the Forgotten Capital. If we were to take that same approach, then Rocket Town would have been in Rebirth. Instead, we're introducing it in the second half of Revelation. Once you get to Rocket Town, players will get to see a new side of Sid that hasn't been shown before. He's a highly regarded man, Everyone in the town loves him. So we're exploring this character further, and we'll get to see new sides of him not previously shown. Watch as soon as he sees Shara. It's on site and he snaps. That'd be great. Said it with Rebirth and we'll say it with Revelation. Sid in the Re trilogy is not FF7 Sid Highwind. He is K8 Sid Highwind. I mean, yeah. Um, and that's another thing too, is that apparently, and I don't know this for sure because I have not played FF7 in Japanese, but I've always wanted to do a Japanese run. But as Sia says in chat, the original version of Sid wasn't necessarily that rude or a bad guy, apparently. Yeah, that because that's what people say. But fans also say like a lot of things, and then I investigate them, and then it turns out to not be like as true. Like one thing that people say is that like FF13 is super well received in Japan. It was only hated in the US. And then like you go look at like the NHK polls, and you see that FF13 is not in the top 10 Final Fantasy games. And then you read Japanese discourse on the game, and you find out that a lot of people disliked it for like all the same reasons that people in the West also like were pretty contentious about it. So a lot of times fans just be saying in Japan is different, and then in Japan it'd be kind of like it'd be kind of perceived roughly the same way. Or different but not different in the way that they have kind of projected. Um so sometimes I have to be like a little cautious with just believing that because yeah. I actually have not played the Shinra Archaeology um version of the translation, but I should actually. I should play that version. That is like the best version if you want a version of the game that is closer to the Japanese. But I think even personality aside, you can argue that Sid's character has been fumbled in the fact that he doesn't smoke, right? That is kind of a pretty huge character change, I feel like. Him smoking is pretty iconic. And the fact that his character, they recreated all the character profiles and they omitted the cigarette from his character profile, I do feel like Sid is going to still by the end be a pretty controversial point. I feel like Sid in Rebirth is a lot like Sid in AC. Well, yeah, because Sid in AC though is Sid with the character development of FF7, right? Smoking is probably a ratings thing. True. Um, because hold on. Let's take a look at something real quick. Um, so Final Fantasy VII Retrilogy is 0C. Right, but then what is smoking? Is smoking 0C? Smoking 0C. I don't think we'll find an answer. Oh, I know it's off center. Hold on. All right, it's cropped. Because, well, AI overview, lol. Take that with like a fucking grain of salt. But if you're asking about 0C in Japanese rating boards, zero, yeah, it's suitable for. Okay. It cites this. But then that doesn't really tell us anything. That still doesn't really say anything. I don't know. Huh. Okay. Well, I'll have to research this and we'll find out. Giant Monkey Butt, thank you so much for the super. Could also be a thing for main characters not smoking because it's bad, but because there was definitely a group of people smoking hookah in Rebirth. Oh, true. Huh. I don't know. Someone on YouTube mentioned it, but Kiryu lost his SIG in the remaster of Yakuza 3, and I think it's also Zero C. Fuck, bro. Re-trilogy should have been Zero D. I'm sorry. I don't know. I know that's. I don't think that is a hot take, but like, fuck, you gotta cut so much shit that is kind of integral. Blood Trail, Sid smoking. I do feel like Yoshi P was right about that for sure with 16. Um, where I'm just like, yeah, I think President Shinra smokes and wait, you're right. President Shinra smokes. Chat. President Shinra has a cigar. It's a protagonist thing. I think it might be. I think it might be. I'm sorry, this frame is so goated. It's so goated, bro. Yo. I'm sorry. I have to like I have to make sure that I have this saved. I literally just put it in like one of my friends group chat just so that I have that so I can use it as a reaction image. And they're not going to know why I sent that to them for like several hours. So they're going to be really confused why I just sent them a picture of this. But I just want to save it with it. Josh Z, thank you so much for the super chat. As someone whose grandmother died because she was told to stop smoking, it pisses me off that people advocate for such a self-destructive behavior to be shown. Oh wait, my thing crashed. Give me 1 second to reload my YouTube chat. To be shown in media, smoking is poison. First of all, let me just say, sorry for your loss. My grandfather also died from basically complications from smoking, more or less. And so I understand too. But I think that I think the proper reframe for the smoking, and this is something that I've talked about on this stream with Max, was essentially that I think that if they framed the smoking not in a heroic or cool way, but they framed it in a way of where it's like, this is what he does to cope with the stress. And then I think what you can do after that is give him character development where him smoking is no longer necessary and he quits. He stops, right? I think that is actually really impactful. And I also think that sets up a good narrative for people who do smoke in real life to think about Sid Highland and how, yeah, give Sid a quit smoking arc, right? I think that's what you do. Like you make it part of the story, rather than removing the characterization. You tell it that yes, he smokes, and yes, it is bad, and he's gonna stop because that's the end result of his character development. Is that he's like, you know what, I don't need this shit anymore. Which I think actually sends a better message to people who do smoke or think about smoking than just getting rid of it entirely. Showing a path to, you can break this habit. You can live beyond it. It is something that brings you comfort now, yes. Uh, but you can grow beyond that. So I think that's how it should have been done and not just removing it. But that being said, I don't even know if that's an option, because if this is a Zero thing and this is them saying like, hey, we don't want the protagonist of our video games to be shown smoking cigarettes, then there's nothing you can do about it, right? So probably bumps it up to 0D. Yeah, I think that also works too, Hero of Light. Flashback to young Sid smoking during the rocket failure. Cut back to him not smoking today. Gets the point across without being too preachy. Right. Right. But also too, I feel like when it comes to that, I think that having a story where a character breaks an addiction is something that I think has been really undervalued in video game storytelling, and quite possibly in like the storytelling of a lot of media in general. And I think that there is a lot of compelling, um, relatable stories that can be told. So yeah, I think there's a way to do it and make it not like cool for kids to go and smoke. um Denobra, thank you so much for the super. My grandfather was killed by a gunshot. Maybe I can advocate to replace Barrett's arm with a metal boxing glove or something. Give me an effing break. Thank you, Denobra. I don't think it's not quite the same equivalent, right? Because but I get what you're trying to say, and I appreciate the super, buddy. Um, don't expect another exercising mini game. Oh no. Um, there was a fitness gym in Costa del Sol area, and that's where you go to do the squat mini game in Rebirth. Hamaguchi said. The gym memberships you might see, uh, the gym memberships you might see them referenced in the story elsewhere, but there won't be a fitness mini game. From the development team's perspective, since we did 2 iterations of the exercise minigame, we feel that's probably enough. I think they should have fucking done a third one. What? No Jules challenge? I know. Were people really struggling with them? I think some people were. Um, Kate Sith has a pretty adorable character design. So all of the fits designed for him look pretty cute. So I like that one, said Hamaguchi. It's not just Kate Sith who wears the fits. It's not just Kate Sith who wears the fits. The Fat Muga will also appear. The Fat Muga will also wear the fits. In that sense, I think it's going to be a good combo of 2 cute characters wearing the outfits together. Yeah. The Platinum Trophy will be easier than FF7 Rebirth. I don't even know how I feel about this because I feel like why are we and this is also why too platinum game design can be so confounding for me because I feel like isn't the whole point of platinum being like the opposite of like a participation trophy? It's supposed to be like you have gone all in and you've mastered everything there is to master in the game, you know? So I'm kind of like, what's the point of lowering the threshold for uh the platinum? I feel like one other negative feedback we got with Rebirth was how hard it was to obtain the platinum trophy. It should be hard. Am I like what the fuck? Shouldn't be designing games around platinums, optional game achievements. Yes, I hate the idea of designing games around platinums, and I say this all the time. I think that like that uh the idea that like platinum should be able to be gotten by everyone almost still kind of defeats the point of like platinum. Like it is supposed to be that you did everything, that you maximize the game. You don't need the platinum trophy to beat the game or enjoy the game, right? Like the platinum trophy is not a participation trophy, right? Yeah, well, I think the FF9 thing is like, you know, that. But the Rebirth Platinum isn't a challenge or hard or anything. It literally requires fully playing the game 100% on normal and doing it all again, all side quests, all mini games on hard mode as well. It's not a taste of skill, it's a test of patience and practicing the mundane. Right. Well, I mean, I would personally argue that most platinum trophies kind of are. I hate to say it. I hate to say it. I do feel like most platinum trophies kind of are like more of a test of patience than anything else, which is why I can't do it. I'm not a platinum. Endurance is also part of difficulty IMO, yeah. Because most platinuming most games requires fun to stop IMO. Which is why I'm like, I'm not doing this shit. Like, I'm not jump roping 1,000 times to get a fucking platinum trophy. Like, I'd rather go see my friends and my family. And that's no disrespect to anyone who does that, right? We got Blitz in chat who does like really awesome like platinum videos. And those challenges. The challenges is there for those who want it. But like to me, in most cases, like the platinum trophy requires me hating the video game at some point in time. Because it just wears my patience fucking thin. Um, you know, so anyway, one negative feedback we got with Rebirth was how hard it was to obtain the Platinum Trophy. We took that feedback and made some changes to the Platinum Trophy for Revelation. I don't want to say it'll necessarily be easier, but the barrier will be a bit lower compared to Rebirth. This does hurt me, however, because whenever I go to fan events, a lot of fans approach me and say, Hamaguchi-san, I got the trophy. They're really proud of it. And I'm really happy to see that. But it feels like with Revelation, we're probably not going to see that. So it does make me a bit sad. Okay, so that probably wasn't even like Hamaguchi's choice necessarily to do this, by the way. Danobra, thank you so much for the gift membership. I appreciate it. I mean, yeah. I think that the platinum is supposed to be hard and require patience. And I don't have patience in that way. I think it ruins my time, so that's why I leave that stuff to Blitz and not myself. Blitz saying it's so dumb, especially since they are likely giving the streamlined progression cheats, bro. That's actually really funny, Blitz, because Hamaguchi was saying like before that streamers present a problem for people wanting like playing the game themselves. And then they also drop streamline progression where you can god mode the entire game and not interact with it. I think you actually have a better experience watching a streamer play it than you do god moding the fucking game and doing quad 9 damage to like literally everything and having infinite gil and everything, you know? So, yeah, it just, yeah. Kingdom Trigger, thank you so much for the super. Did you go over Hamaguchi saying Chatley will still call you and customize and we can customize the ringtone? Where is he getting this fan feedback? We're good. Thank you so much, Kingdom Trigger. I think I heard about that, but I have not seen that interview. But I do think it's funny that we can customize the ringtone for Chatley. I wonder what kind of ringtones they'll have access to. Yeah, that sounds like an exec mandate. Yeah, because he was like, "Fuck, I don't want to do this, but I have to do it," and that's the end of that. So I feel like, see, a lot of times we can criticize like the game designers for stuff, but sometimes what ends up happening is that an exec is like sitting down with the team and saying, "Hey, this shit came up a lot in the reviews, and I don't like what that does to our numbers going into the next thing. So we need to hype this shit up and say that, oh yeah, you remember the thing you didn't like? The thing you didn't like is gone. So now you can do another thing that you do like." Anyways, um, as the word revelation suggests, it means that we're going to feel things, said Hamaguchi. Wait, what was the title on this? Square isn't plotting another remake trilogy anytime soon. I wonder why. Yeah. As the word revelation suggests, it means we're going to feel things, Hamaguchi said. We're going to uncover things that were left unanswered in previous titles. We spent 10 plus years developing this series of 3 AAA titles. Doing all that in the course of a decade is probably not going to happen again anytime soon. So all in all, it's going to be an incredibly big moment for us, right? Yeah. I mean, they spent a whole decade of their lives making the re-trilogy. I cannot imagine that they want to do it again. I think that when you look at the sales, it's probably not there for them. It's just another remake trilogy is probably not happening. This means that the Versus Epic is still on the table. That game was never released, so it can never be remade. It's coming as the next big trilogy project, trust. Oh man, I wish. Yeah. Did you ever beat FF16 on Final Fantasy mode? I had such a it'll be a long time before I can like try to play it again. I really, really did not enjoy my first playthrough of that game. So uh me being able to touch it again, it'll need to be way longer, and I'll have to go back through it, maybe skip side quests, maybe install some mods, but no, I just did not like it enough to do it again. Um, Sorry for those who who are not very big fans of that take, but that's just how I feel. Following Final Fantasy VII Revelation's big reveal in June 2026, Square Enix has locked a spring 2027 launch window for PC, all platforms basically, on the same release day. The reveal featured a new trailer showcasing the ability to explore regions via the Highwind, a deep emphasis on player driven story choices. After Final Fantasy VII Remake was released in 2020, followed by Rebirth's release in 2024, Revelation wraps up the episodic remake trilogy in roughly a decade, an impressive turnaround. Given that a single AAA video game can take almost 6 to 7 years to go from the drawing board to full release. In an interview with Restart Run, well, let's just look at the interview with Restart Run then. Oh shit, where's the actual... quote? I don't even see it. What the fuck? Well, I'll just read it here. Roy Mustang, thank you for the super. Will I play Trails in the Sky's second chapter? Yeah, I'll probably play it. I still gotta finish the final chapter of first chapter. I put it off and then I fell off of it, but I'll come back. I'll just read it from here. In the interview with Restart Run, FF7 Revelation director Naoki Hamaguchi of Square Enix's Creative Studio One went into detail about how the development team managed to deliver back-to-back polished releases without the kind of delays that plague many budget video game projects and franchises. He outlined several simple factors, including planning for the remake, while earlier entries like Final Fantasy 15 and 16 were still in development, paired with deliberate staff continuity, he explained. So this is crazy, right? Because they were essentially planning FF7R back when FF15 came out, which makes sense because the 7R project was greenlit in 2013, I believe. So when you really think about it, this project has actually been going on 13 years, and when it concludes, FF7R will have went on for 14 years, basically, in terms of development. So that means roughly a decade and a half has been dedicated to remaking Final Fantasy VII. And this is why the idea of doing another, like, remake trilogy is pretty much off the fucking table. And it should be, because that's way too fucking long. And that's with everything mostly going smoothly, minus the first game and the whole Cyber Connect 2 situation, right? It still took 14 fucking years from start to finish. Ridiculous. It cannot be done again. It cannot be done again. I don't think that FF needs another trilogy unless the Versus Epic is one of those ideas, in which case I think that FF does need another trilogy. But here's what he had to say. That's definitely true. And I think we were also trying to answer fans' desires to have the next title come to them as soon as possible and really let them enter the game and continue the journey. In terms of development, when we were working toward the end of Remake, we already had an idea of how to develop Rebirth. And then toward the end of the development of Rebirth, we had a rough idea of how to approach Revelation. So in that sense, I think we have... having a kind of constant alignment within the staff, and having the same staff, most of the staff, work on Revelation from Rebirth to Revelation meant we were able to maintain the same type of flow. And I think that really helped development stay on track within that time span. And I know this sounds almost brain dead, right? Like, almost like, well, what the fuck do you mean? Yeah, of course. Of course, if the team sticks together and you're reusing tech and code and assets, that everything falls into place. And yet, somewhere throughout all the corporate bureaucracy, that typically doesn't happen. They tend to see people like the talent, the teams themselves, they tend to see that talent as expendable or replaceable, and that you can just sub other people in, other than like the top key creative staff that they're proud of. And it's not a big deal. You can move people around. It's not a big deal. There is a misunderstanding of team synergy, right? And like realizing that when they have a certain team working together, that group of people and how they synergize with each other's work makes it magical, you know? And isn't something that you can swap out with another thing. The Western game industry is definitely worse about that. For sure. Although I don't think the Japanese industry is like much better per se. Don't expect their next game to have the amount of content, story length, or even the same amount of party members as Revelation. It's completely delusional to expect this IMO. Yeah, no, for sure. I would expect a Hamaguchi FF17 to maybe have 5 or 6 party members from the start, maybe even as low as 4, but probably 5 to 6. And yeah, I don't think it'd be as long. I don't think it needs to be as long. Isn't FF Resonance potentially going to be 3 parts? They have enough material for 5 parts. I can't see them doing it, but it's there. It's there. So whether they will, whether they won't, there's 5 seasons of Brave Exvius content. One of them is exclusive to Japan, so it would be cheaper, right? Each part gets progressively cheaper. What I imagine they'll do is that they may do the next game, Resonance 2. Resonance 2 might be season 2 and 3, right? And then Resonance 3 will be seasons 4 and 5. That's what I'm thinking, right? And Resonance 1 is kind of like a test to see how strong the sales are, so they can kind of adapt how many games they can make. They can probably pump out the next game faster. I'll even go as far as to bet you that Resonance 2 will be 2028 or late 2027, like a year later. Like, so October 2027, I think they could probably even put out Resonance 2 because of how fast the development will go between these. That's just my estimation, but I'm willing to bet you that they have a pretty fast pipeline in place. And there's also a reason, too, that they emphasized that this is the first HD 2D Final Fantasy, right? They were very clear about that. They put it in the marketing. I think they even put it in one of the cuts of the trailer to let you know there are other Final Fantasy HD 2D games coming. This is not the only one. So I think that there's an indication there that maybe, just maybe, it's going to be like a really short time between those games. There was also supposed to be like an article on Bloomberg that I'm looking for it to make. Looking for it to read it right now. I think it's this one right here. It is. Let's go. Um. Oh man, is it paywalled, chat? Is it paywalled? Dang. That sucks. Hold on, let me see. It should be free. Uh, I don't see a way to close this. Let me see if I refresh the page. Will it? I gave you the link. Oh, okay. Thanks. Give me one sec. Then let me do that. Let me see something real quick. Because the thing OBS is okay. There it is. Oh yay! Now it lets us read it. Let's go. Okay. Last week at Summer Games Fest, Square Enix Holdings Co. revealed Final Fantasy VII Revelation, the conclusion to a trilogy of games that remakes the 1997 classic Final Fantasy VII for the modern era. The big surprise? It's coming out spring of 2027, just 3 years after the second entry, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. 3 years is speedy by modern game standards of the video game industry, in which many productions take a half a decade or longer to finish. Naoki Hamaguchi, the trilogy director, attributes Revelation's abridged timeline to a strong vision and a team that has worked together for years. He says 95% of developers from Rebirth stuck around for the finale. Staff retention helps explain the success of Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. The first game, called Final Fantasy VII Remake, was released in April 2020, and its sequel, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, followed in February 2024. Both games have sold millions of copies and have been acclaimed by critics and fans. During a wide-range interview in Los Angeles last weekend, Hamaguchi also spoke about implementing Final Fantasy VII's classic airship, the Highwind, which lets you soar around the game's world. He talked about a new job system, how he kept the name Revelation a secret, even from his own staff. Wow. Shit, even from his own staff? And his plans once the third game is finished. Let's go back in time a little bit. Did you guys start working on Revelation before Rebirth was actually finished? When did the work on this project actually start? When the wider development team was focused on Rebirth, I, as the director, oh wait, hold on. We got a super chat from, oh wait, hold on, actually. We got a super chat from Kingdom Trigger first. Hot take, FF Resonance is cool, but it shouldn't have been the first HD 2D FF game. From a business perspective, that novelty would have made bigger waves if it was an entirely new FF. I think, and what I've seen, is that a lot of people did not even know that it was like Brave Exvius. A lot of people were just like, oh, this is a new game. So I think a lot of people actually are under that impression that, or they do think it is a new game. So I think it still works, and I think that's also why they named it something different other than Brave Exvius. Yeah, see, Tagalong says, I had no idea it was Brave Exvius related, and I think most people still don't realize this. Yeah, 100%. A lot of people don't even know what the fuck Brave Exvius is, so I think it works. Luke Bauer, thank you for the super chat. FF Resonance is, in fact, FF17. Square Enix decided to drop the numeration and restore the franchise identity to please the older audience. Luke, thank you for the super chat. I do think that Final Fantasy Resonance is how I would imagine FF being named if FF was not numbered, right? So let's suppose that Final Fantasy 17 was called Final Fantasy Resonance. I do think that that's how I would imagine they would name the games if they were to drop the number and go full Resident Evil, but we'll see. Where the fuck was I? I'll just start from the top. I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Let me just blow my nose. I make so much mucus from talking this long, chat. I do. Anyways, let's go back in time a little bit. Did you guys start working on Revelation before Rebirth was actually finished? When did this project actually start? When the wider development team was focused on Rebirth, I, as the director, started creating plans and designs of what I wanted to do for Revelation around 1 year before Rebirth was about to launch. Then, after the development of Rebirth was finished, I started all the concepts and ideas and designs we were looking to implement in Revelation. Which, by the way, is precisely what I think is happening with Final Fantasy XVII. As the development calms down on Final Fantasy VII Revelation, I believe that Hamaguchi is now turning his attention, and as well as much of the rest of the team, toward Final Fantasy XVII. That's just my theory on it, but it makes sense, right? They're just going to continue the same flow that they have. Kingdom Trigger, thank you for another super. I saw a lot of people turned off by the cameo appearances of existing characters, though. It made it feel cheap. Yeah, I do think that there is some debate that maybe they should have got rid of the visions because it would do that. But I don't think it's going to hurt the game ultimately. But I can understand why people feel that way. I'm not like a huge fan of the cameos. I'm not a big like nostalgia dig guy, but like I understand why people don't like it, but I don't think it'll turn them off enough to like not buy it, you know? At least I hope. What were your ideas? What were your main ideas at that point? I thought to myself, what would players think after playing Rebirth? What would they want to see in Revelation? I thought they'd probably ask for control of the Highwind, an even bigger scale of open world, taking everything a step above Rebirth. Figuring out how I would implement that into the third and final installment of the trilogy was the top priority for me. One thing I want to add is the fact that Vincent is wearing his parachute with belt crossed and not a backpack like the rest of the party. That was not my idea. That was someone else in the development team just going with that. Interesting? Were you worried about the technical challenges? Were there anything you wanted to do that actually couldn't be done? I don't think there was anything we couldn't implement from the design framework that we had in the beginning. But in order to demonstrate this full scale of exploration with the Highwind, I wanted players to be able to fly around the world rather than hitting a threshold or wall. I had a pretty strong opinion about this because if they were to eventually reach a visible wall that prevents them from going forward, I don't think that's a good gaming experience for the player. The engineers were strongly against this idea because of the difficulties. I pushed it through and we were able to put it in the game. As I've talked about before, making the world map an actual sphere and not a flat Earth is something extraordinarily hard to do. Extraordinarily. And the fact that they were able to make the world round is not insignificant, man. It's pretty damn tight. Why were the engineers against it? It's really just the technical aspect of it. It's hard to portray in a way that looks visually natural for the player. That's the main reason why it was initially not met with favorable reactions from the team members. I strongly felt that this was a non-negotiable. Even our team members had questions. It was truly worth the resources to properly implement this feature, but we made it happen. It's crazy that they were able to make it round. I know. This is one of those things that like people will be like, the OG was round. It couldn't have been that hard. They did it back in 1997. They could do it now with today's technology. Not realizing that actually today's technology and graphical fidelity makes that way harder. I feel like people who don't actually have like an idea of how these things work take them for granted and are just like, of course the magic thing should be magical and like that's just how it works. But yeah, actually making the planet round is so much harder than anyone actually thinks that it is. Um, it's kind of hard to explain on a tech level, but it's really really hard. When did you learn from the reception of when did you learn from the reception of Rebirth as you kicked off? What did you learn, sorry, from the reception of Rebirth uh, as you kicked off Revelation? We did see a lot of player feedback after we launched Final Fantasy VII Rebirth about the mini games. I asked myself, is it truly a negative experience to offer too many mini games to players? The idea was that it was the player's choice if they want to play the side content, including the mini games. The way we communicated it was that it doesn't really impact the main game's progress, and it doesn't hinder the player's experience if they decide to skip those mini games or side content, which is essentially how I personally experienced it. Um, but again, I didn't go for the platinum. One of the concerns that we saw was that a lot of the rewards players received from minigames were tied to combat. They were either items that would customize the combat experience or items that would impact strategy elements of the combat. This time around, the rewards from minigames will be a bit different. It'll be character skins, weapon skins, and other cosmetic things that don't impact the actual strategy. Was there anything you learned during the development of Rebirth that helped you prepare for making Revelation? I think I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but creating a AAA game is by no means an easy feat. It's incredibly difficult. It took us about 4 years to develop and release Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and then it took us only about 3 years to develop and release Final Fantasy VII Revelation. Obviously, some fans might still think, oh my god, I waited 3 incredibly long years for this. But I think our development timeline was incredibly smooth. I think the key takeaway for us as a team is that we were able to carry this unified vision as a team who worked on 3 trilogy titles throughout the last 10 years together. Which makes sense. A AAA game in 3 years is unheard of, especially of this scale. It's incredible. Good cosmetics should be the only rewards for doing minigames. I feel like I have to disagree because I think that's been like Final Fantasy for years. You know what I'm saying? Like you go back to OG7 and you're doing like chocobo breeding and shit to get the gold chocobo for Knights of the Round, or like Final Fantasy X's dumbass mini games. You know, to like max your characters out. So I think the way Rebirth did it is the way that like Final Fantasy games have always done it. Revelation is going to be like the first one to not do it that way. So I don't know. Last time we spoke, you told me that 95% of the my brain is starting to short circuit now. Last time we spoke, you told me that 95% of the team stuck together for Rebirth. Is that right? Yeah, I think there are 2 factors. I think one big factor that contributed is that I was able to present the specific direction and approach that we wanted to take for each of those titles from the early stages. We never really pivoted to a different direction after arriving at a specific approach we wanted to take. Thankfully, the team members had their full trust in me and the directions. I presented to them. I'm sorry, I'm losing it. Thankfully, the team had their full trust in me and the directions I presented them, and I think we were able to build this mutual trust and resolve. We'll complete all these games and take this to the finish line. For believing in me and carrying this to the finish line with me, I'm very grateful for them. The second factor is that we have a loyal development team that stuck through the whole trilogy. The benefit is that everyone is naturally aware of what they need to do. Most of the time at Square Enix, when the development of a title ends, the development team just disbands. Even if we need to transition to a different title, we have to start the process. We have to start over with the process of gathering team members and determining what their roles are going to be. The big benefit of the FF7 remake series is that we never had to go through that process, so the transition was extremely quick. Like, I know this sounds fucking insane, and it is, but this is legitimately what they've been doing and like what's been happening for FF and throughout most of the game industry, really, for all of these years. It's fucking mental. Yep, Yoshida himself said the FF16 team disbanded before their final DLC released. Yeah. Yeah. So I've seen people saying that, like, oh, I can't wait to see what that team does next. And I'm like, I think they missed the headline. That team, the FF16 team, has already been dissolved. Like, they're not creating anything anymore. That's not to say that Creative Studio 3 is not like making like a new project or whatever, but Creative Studio 3 is not like the team within Creative Studio 3 that made 16 is not making anything right now because they've disbanded. So that's also why 16 didn't get like a crazy number of patches or anything like that, because our updates, because the team disbanded pretty quickly after the game released. Yeah, I imagine that a lot of the people that were working on 16 are now working on Evercold. They probably got transferred over to that. So, and I would be really angry at Square Enix if the team that works on 7R also gets disbanded. Do you think that's a lesson to other projects within Square Enix to try to keep the team together? I actually never had that idea before. What the fuck do you mean, bro? How has no one ever thought of this? In general, most development teams within Square Enix just disband after a title. Ah! Bro. Bro, this is what I'm saying, dude. Oh my god. No one's ever even thought, like, what if we don't do that? This is crazy to me. When we started on the next project, we'd start over again with the process of gathering necessary development members and figuring out what roles they will fill. The only exception is probably the Final Fantasy XIV team led by Naoki Yoshida, and that's a huge team that's been working on multiple expansions. And the remake series led by me. Wait. So you mean to say that, like, debatably, their two biggest successes, 14 and the remake series, are things where the team stuck together? Huh. I wonder if that's like a factor in why that's the fucking case. God, this company is so fucking unbelievable, bro. Funny enough, most development teams disband and Square before they even finish the games. Yeah, that's true, Blitz. That's true. Like, a lot of the times, like, as the game is wrapping up, they're like, okay, go work on some other shit or go home. But this team is a wrap. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And then people wonder, you know, why is Final Fantasy going through these things? It's like, it's so obvious. But I mean, it gets even more obvious when you realize that, like, basically since Final Fantasy X, like, I guess if you include like 13 and 7R, but really even that's not like the same team, right? Like, the teams are always dissolved and the same team is never like being like, okay, let's try to make another Final Fantasy game. They like dissolve that Final Fantasy team, and then they're like, okay, let's make a new team to make the next number title. RE2, RE4, and RE Veronica remakes have been done by one team. Right. And do you notice how we're getting RE Veronica a fucking year after Resident Evil Requiem? And like it'll be 4 years since RE4, which is also still like a really good pacing for that team because they're releasing a game like every 4 years. Like it is so fucking stupid. Capcom keeps their team together with projects like Resident Evil. Just don't ask why RE3 team RE3 remake team ended up. They haven't seen the sun since they released that horrible remake. Yeah. Capcom clearly has staggered development so each team can crank out a new RE game in roughly 2 years. Yeah. Capcom has essentially turned RE into a Call of Duty release cadence. Right. And the thing I want people to think about with Call of Duty release cadences is that before Call of Duty did that release cadence, the game series that was really known for that release cadence, that was crazy, was actually Final Fantasy, right? When Zelda, I mean, Zelda's still doing this, but Zelda was like releasing like one game per generation, right? That was like the most adjacent thing to like Final Fantasy's appeal at that time. But like Final Fantasy was like brand new epic RPG yearly. FF was like the first one to do that. It's wild. RE3 is their only misstep, and even that's a decent game still. Yeah, 100%. Capcom has really figured out AAA, like 100%. Um, people will say Square's lineup isn't that barren when you consider it like AA, but damn, look at like Capcom's AAA output. Like it's crazy. Just the number of AAA games coming from Capcom this year alone, bro, we're getting fucking Onimusha, right? We already had Resident Evil Requiem. And then we already had like a fucking Pragmata. And then there's like a fifth game I think I'm missing from that, right? And could you imagine? Oh yeah, we had Monster Hunter Stories 3. And I still feel like there's something else I might be missing from Capcom. But anyway, that's like 5 games I think I just listed. And they're still not fucking done. Was Monster Hunter Wilds this year? Or is that last year? Oh fuck, that was this year, right? Was that this year? I don't remember anymore. That was last year. That was last year. Wilds was last year, right? Oh, the expansion. You mean the expansion to Wilds? Okay, yeah. The expansion. Fuck, bro. Did you say? Yeah, I said Pragmata and Onimusha. Yeah, so that's Capcom's like AAA output. Square Enix's AAA output is not like that. I think yeah, when you add in the AA games is good, but like why can't we have that kind of AAA output from Capcom? And then we already know, oh yeah, the Dragon's Dogma expansion. That's right. Dragon's Dogma expansion, Monster Hunter Wilds expansion. And we're over here getting a trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4 after 5 fucking years. No, 4 years. It's crazy, man. Kingdom Trigger, thank you so much for the super. A bat super, too. Thank you. Keeping the team together is really important, but just as important as is different teams iterating on the same foundations. RE has multiple teams, but everyone understands the fundamentals of how RE plays across all RE teams. Yeah, that's another thing, is that like nobody fucking agrees what Final Fantasy is. And a lot of people talk about like Sakaguchi, for example. They're like, oh, All this wouldn't happen if Sakaguchi was here. And that's true to an extent, but not for the reason I think that people think. People think that like Sakaguchi like would have rejected all these things, and he might have, or that he was just better at game design, which I don't think is necessarily true. But what Sakaguchi did to actually make Final Fantasy have an identity is that Sakaguchi was the visionary for the FF series, something that FF doesn't have anymore, right? So multiple people would work on Final Fantasy just as they do now. But the difference is that Sakaguchi would say, this is Final Fantasy, this is not Final Fantasy, but you are fucking cooking, and I'm going to give you the money, but not enough money to go make Xenogears, you know? Or like, hey, this is a pretty fire idea. That shit's not Final Fantasy, but I think you should go make Parasite Eve. Here's some money. Right? Um, or someone would pitch Action Final Fantasy at the time, and they'd say, hey, that's pretty dope. That's not what we're doing with this series, but I want you to go make Secrets of Mana. Whereas now I think they're like, will this sell 10 million? Will this pitch sell 10 million? Well, if it will sell 10 million, then fuck it, it's Final Fantasy. That's the way that everything is approached now. Final Fantasy can be versatile all the way down to its execution. FF16 lacked execution in the areas where it mattered, among many things. Yeah, I completely agree, Blitz. 100%. And that's another thing too, is that like, across these teams, they don't agree with what Final Fantasy is. And yeah, Kitase is supposed to be the brand manager, and I think Kitase is an amazing game director, an amazing person, amazing for all the contributions that he's made to video games, but I haven't been too keen on what he's been doing as brand director. Because I don't think, at least from what I can see outside of Square Enix, say that I think he's been like putting his foot down enough with what is and what isn't Final Fantasy, right? Like, he has a very laissez-faire approach where, like with Yoshi P's account, where he was like, yeah, I approached Kitase and told him like I wanted to make a game where there's no commands, I'm removing the playable party members. And Kitase's reaction was, yeah, do whatever if you think that makes a good game. And I just think that, like, okay, and to preface, maybe that's an oversimplification of what was said. Maybe they polished that story up to make it look like, Kitase just gave him his approval and said, go ahead and do whatever, right? Like, we don't know for sure. But if we're just taking that story at the surface level, it feels like, what the fuck? It feels like, what the fuck? I don't think I've ever heard that from any brand manager before, where the brand manager is just like, yeah, sounds good. Do whatever the fuck you want to do, boss. Do whatever the fuck, bro. I trust you. You're good. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like, I at least want to hear that they deliberated on it for like a long time, and there was tough arguments, and ultimately they let him do what he wanted to do. But like, the way the conversation was told, the way that story was told, it was basically like, yeah, we talked about it, and I was just like, yeah, bro, you do you. I'm not gonna be a hater. And yeah, I just feel like brand management is crazy. What do you guys think you have to do at Nintendo to make a new Mario game? Like, to pitch a new Mario game? How many layers of bullshit do you think you have to go through to like see if something is worthy of like putting Mario on there? I don't think that they have to be Nintendo tight, obviously, with the FF brand, but I'm just saying that like they need to have something there to be like we cannot do this. I would actually be more encouraged if I saw an interview with Final Fantasy 17 with them saying that we rejected a lot of things. We said no, fuck no, we're not doing that to a lot of stuff. That would actually be more encouraging to me than them saying that like, yeah, we're just gonna try this thing because this is just like the new thing that we want to try. Because I do feel like what you say no to is just as important as what you say yes to. Kingdom Trigger, thank you for another super. Lock 100 people in a room and have them play FF1, 10, and 15. Ask them which two are the most similar in combat mechanics. All 100 would say FF1 and 10 are similar to each other compared to FF15. FF had an identity through 10, yeah. And even with the big changes that 10 made, right? 10 is still very much recognizable as Final Fantasy, right? Like, and 10 made some very big gameplay changes. But even despite that, every single person would recognize Final Fantasy X as like Final Fantasy. Like it's not even a question, right? So I think that they lost that that brand recognition with that. Uh, 16 could have been an FF, but not numbered. But people would have been pissed off if they weren't working on a numbered entry. Well, if 16 wasn't a numbered entry, it would never have gotten the funding to make that game. They would have never gotten the funding. It would have never happened because, um, like the very idea of 16 is so expensive that they would not have made it. So didn't this happen with Nomada in interviews where he pushed back on ideas for Re-Trilogy? Yeah. Because Kitase wanted to make Re-Trilogy a full action game. And Nomada, which is really funny because I'm telling you, Nomada is the only one who fucking gets it. You start reading the interviews and putting this together and you realize that he's the only one who actually understands Final Fantasy in the way that you and I understand Final Fantasy. Because he was the only one that was like, no, what the fuck? We can't make this a full action game. Are you serious? People will hate people will hate this if we do. Like what the fuck? And so yeah, it's really good to see that he pushed back on that. And he was like, "Yeah, we have you have to be able to play as all the characters. You have to have elemental weaknesses and stuff like that. You have to. There's no other way around it. In fact, I want to see if I don't want to go too much off on a tangent here so we can finish the damn thing. Um, damn. I don't think I have it. Wait, I might actually. No, I don't have it. I wanted to pull up the quote. I love Kitase, but Nomada should be the brand manager. Thank you, Giant Monkey. But yeah, but Nomada would never want to be the brand manager. That's like not his thing. He doesn't want to manage shit. He wants to draw characters. He wants to draw Noctis. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to manage a brand. But also, Nomada has kind of gotten a bit wild in some interviews, at least like during his Kingdom Hearts 3 era, which for obvious reasons, he was like, yo, nobody knows Final Fantasy like me. And I think it's true. I agree. I think that's the truth. Nomada works during vampire hours. He certainly does. But yeah, this is just fucking crazy to me, man. They never even thought about it. It's crazy. These are two of the most successful projects at Square. I don't think that's a coincidence. Which is what I just said about 14 and 7. Yeah, you're actually spot on with that. Because me and Yoshida, a lot is deferred to our discretion when it comes to our decision making. Our CEO puts a lot of trust in us, so I'm grateful for that too. My daughter watched me play FF11, or no, FF9, sorry. FF9, 14, and Dissidia. That's a JRPG, an MMO, and a fighting game. And each time I gotta tell her it's all Final Fantasy. Yep, it's very true, right? Whereas when you look at Final Fantasy 1 through 10, I know this sounds crazy to a lot of people, but the brand recognition that you get from three or four characters in a row, and there's a command menu, um, and you know how that command menu looks, and the way the characters are standing across the field from the enemies, um, that lets people know right away that it's Final Fantasy in a way that's actually really important to brand recognition. It's also why I think the command menu in general, obviously, other than gameplay stuff, is actually really important. It's really, really important. It's one of the big reasons why, in part, Sega Atlas is remaking all of uh, their Persona games, and they're making them very uniform with the new identity, which is what Persona 5 created for them. And they want you to look at that menu each time and think, this is what a Persona command menu looks like. Because that's important for you understanding that this is Persona. Kingdom Trigger, thank you so much for the super. Just when I thought FF English dubs were universally good, I heard the Resonance dub. Please look at the clip of the boss fight with VA. It's rough. Um, I actually 100% expected the VA to be rough because all the voice acting I've ever heard from any of Team Asano games is yeah. I don't know like what goes on with the voice direction because the actual actors themselves are they get like a talented cast of actors usually, but something about the voice direction in Team Asano games, whenever I hear most of them, I feel like, and again, I'm not like a Team Asano expert. I don't think I've ever finished any of their games, but like uh most of the English dubs for the Team Asano games, in my opinion, and I say this as a dub enjoyer fully, have been like really shaky. So I've already been prepared for like the possibility that I may have to play Resonance um in Japanese. Yeah, it'll ship with dual audio for sure. It always does, but having bad voice direction is so devastating to the entire game. It ruins so many moments or even characterization. Fire Emblem Three Houses has great direction. Engage has horrible direction. It's crazy. Dude, Fire Emblem Three Houses has legendary voice direction. I think the English dub for Three Houses is like generally considered one of the best JRPG dubs of like all time. Like I don't think that like you can't even compare shit to Three Houses, dude. It's so goated. Have you ever thought about trying to keep your team together for whatever next? Okay, great question. Please give a good answer. I have an incredible amount of respect for all of my team members. I'd love very much to leverage the know-how and insights we gained from working on the Final Fantasy VII Remake series. But when we think of it from a bigger perspective, the company, Square Enix as a whole, I do have to be mindful. Bro, fuck Square Enix. Think about you, King. Thankfully, the company puts a lot of trust in me and Naoki Yoshida. But if we were to have all the resources in my team and Naoki Yoshida's team, that staggers and hinders the growth of the company and the development team members as a whole. I do want to be mindful and give different opportunities to talented development members that we have in our company. Personally, I would love to work with my team again for the next project, but we'll see how it turns out. Bro, This company's so stupid. God damn, bro. They just don't learn. Like I've never seen someone who is just not capable of learning any lessons ever. I am going to be so mad if this team breaks up. I am going to be so angry. It was a very non-committal answer. It is, but like it also kind of tells me that like yeah, we're probably going to break up. I mean, it's not entirely his decision. It's not. But if Kiryu really does trust them, then I think Kiryu would listen. So, yeah. When did you start thinking about adding a job system to the game, and how did you decide to implement it? It was around the time when we thought about the high wind exploration. I was in discussions with Teruki Endo, our combat director. He exchanged ideas of what he wanted to do with the combat of Final Fantasy VII Revelation to expand even further. When we both agreed on what we both agreed on was we wanted to add something new but not too convoluted for the players. That's how we landed on the job system approach. That being said, modern game development is very different from the old days when we had to prepare sprites for each unique job. We can't just say let's make 20 or 30 job options for each character when Final Fantasy VII features many playable characters in the party. Because of that, both Endo and I agreed to keep it down to a realistic number of job options. That's how we decided to have the fit system be 4 unique jobs per character. In addition, we decided to implement a skill tree progression because that's familiar to most modern players, and also gives the benefit of offering to expand the strategic approach of combat. While there's only 4 options, we did ensure each job has a really deep progression system. Per, is that are there a crossover? No, I think this is pretty clear that there's only 4 total jobs. And you can do customizations within those jobs, but there's only 4 total jobs, which I know is crazy slim. But yeah. One story I can share with the fit systems, there are 4 unique jobs for each character. This means that each character has 4 unique jobs and costume appearance. Wait. Oh, wait, maybe not. Okay, no. You're right, yeah. Unique per, you're right. Each character has 4 unique jobs and costumes and appearances. Our designers were not happy with the extra workload. Other interview makes it sound like it's 4 total. Dude, every interview, it feels fucking weird. This still doesn't make any sense because he says we can't say let's make 20 or 30 job options for each character. I guess there's 4 job options for each character. Well, no, that does make sense because I'm thinking 20 or 30 jobs total. Okay, so so that's like, yeah, that's a lot of jobs though. That's still a lot of jobs. Okay, so each character has 4 unique jobs. That makes sense. I can live with that. So, you've made the engineers not happy and the designers not happy. As creators, I think what makes us happy the most is, to be able to deliver this creative work that we have worked so hard on. Being able to share this love and passion that the team has worked on so hard with fans across the world, I think I can speak on behalf of them when I say everything will be worth it in the end. I'm in LA now, and the rest of the team is back in Japan, but the team saw the Summer Games Fest announcement. They're all fired up seeing how passionate fans across the world are, showering us with so much love. Did they stay up through the middle of the night to watch? I think so. I have a fun story. For the title of this 3rd and final installment, Revelation, we went through a lot of hoops to make sure it didn't leak beforehand. So when you look at the wider development team who worked tirelessly on the 3rd and final installment of the remake series, there are actually only about 4 or 5 people who knew about the word Revelation being in the title. There were hundreds of developers who also found out about the full title at the same time as the general audience. God damn, dude, that's fucking crazy. Imagine that you know the ending of the game, but you don't know the name of it. It's actually pretty wild. Like, hey, babe, I just found out what the name of the game I've been working on for 3 years is. Imagine, bros. What's next? Do you want to do something completely original? Another Final Fantasy title, please. Something small, something big. Bro says it's not going to be a remake. That's for damn sure. As a team, I do think there's an opportunity to work on a smaller, like a AA title, or a new Final Fantasy title, or even a new AAA franchise. I think all those would be good. Hamaguchi is like the god of non-committal answers, man. Everything he says has absolutely no commitment. It's great. He's good at keeping his secrets. Yesent is the answer to everything. Bro listed, basically, it could be everything, but not a remake. He's like, that's the only goddamn thing I'm not doing. I'll do anything else. SE needs to drop a reaction video of their dev team watching the title reveal. That would be such a good marketing piece. I think they should do that. I heard VAs generally don't know what project they're working on until it ships. Yeah, a lot of the times. Just to prevent those leaks. You know, especially during auditions, right? Because some people would audition for games, not even like really being a voice actor, but just try to audition so that they could like leak an upcoming game, you know? So Hamaguchi could be an NFL quarterback in a press conference, yeah. What if Summoner lets you constantly with ATB, lets you summon constantly with ATB instead of Summon Gauge, or does abilities that briefly bring in summon abilities like Clive, iconic abilities? That'd actually be cool if like it just let you like summon like normal FF7. Honestly, facts, because leading 7R had to be rough. Oh my god. Rough beyond imagination, man. And he's had to do this for, you know, a decade. Over a decade. Where did they go wrong with the marketing for Rebirth? We can start with the reveal trailer. We can actually react to the Resident stuff now, actually, since we're basically finished with the FF7 stuff. So let's take a look at Resonance, because I know a new gameplay was dropped.
Final Fantasy Resonance was just
let me pull it up.
Final Fantasy Resonance was just revealed, and
1 second. Let me adjust the cropping on this.
Final Fantasy Resonance was just revealed, and we got to play it during a visit to Square Enix. It's the first HD 2D Final Fantasy game and brings the series back to turn-based combat while adapting the story of Brave Exvius for a traditional console-style RPG. Here we have gameplay of 2 boss fights. Final Fantasy Resonance comes out on October 22nd for all major platforms including Switch 1 and Switch 2, and you can check out what editor Michael Hyam thinks of the game from his exclusive hands-on preview. But for now, enjoy this gameplay, and as always, stick with IGN for all things Final Fantasy.
Like, Jesus Christ, man, the amount of work put into this is so crazy.
Looks like we have no choice but to fight back!
We're done for if it hits us with that blast! Get it before it charges up!
We're on it! This will take everything.
Okay.
Your will is my power!
Myself out the command.
We have the weakness.
Looks like it's my turn. Take one of these! Ouch! What should I do? Leave it to me.
My turn. Lend me your strength. Got their weakness.
Well then, this'll get them.
Yeah, the music is
That
phenomenal.
seems effective.
What should I do? Sing us a song, Siren!
Dude, the visual work CG on this. Yeah, Siren looks great.
Here goes. Let's go with this!
And if you don't know that they're just reusing this from Brave Exvius mobile game, then this just looks tight as fuck to you, right? The UI is so bad. I think the UI in like Team Asano games to me is never great personally. I'm not like a huge
Got 'em
fan
where
of
it
them,
hurts.
but
What to do? Your will is my power.
yeah, the voice acting is not that bad. But yeah, it's not top tier either. Yeah, I think it's mostly just the direction
What
for
should I
like
do?
how they've done some of this stuff.
Let's see if this works.
My turn. Let's end this. Let's end this quickly,
Keep the flow
everyone.
going.
Gotta keep going!
I think it's cool that there's a stagger mechanic too.
More where that came from.
Now's our chance.
I have you.
I will protect you all. Sorry, not sorry.
Come on, hold on. That's crazy. That's crazy. They didn't dub the they didn't dub the other Final Fantasy characters, so they still speak Japanese in the English version. That's crazy. I don't know how I feel about that, bro.
Kiss to it.
Here I go. Your will is my power. There, that got them.
What should I do?
I think Laswell's voice is pretty good.
Leave it to me. Looks like it's my turn. This is gonna be good. Got him good.
All right. Lend me your strength. Got their weakness.
I'll stick to the basics. Well then, this'll get them. That seems effective.
Here goes. Let's go with this. Can you felt that? What should I do? Sing us a song, Siren.
This footage just dropped? Yeah, it just dropped. Yeah, it looks great.
Don't come any closer.
My turn. How about this? Got him where it hurts.
Here I go. Hear me, Vision. We have the weakness.
What should I do? Leave it to me.
All right. The power of will.
Yeah, the sprite animations are so next level, man.
What to do? Now's my chance.
Let's end this quickly,
Keep
everyone.
the flow going.
Gotta keep going.
Got something special
Here's what you've
for
been waiting
you.
for. Infinity Drive!
Dang, it kind of sucks because I wish the...
Now.
Dang, yeah. I wish the voice direction on this was a little bit more solid because I feel like this would elevate this to like an insane level if it was.
行くよ。私が終わらせる。はっ。
I guess they decided that it was too hard to like get back each one of the respective Final Fantasy actors for this, but I'm like, but they did it for other stuff, and like they had like Cody Christian for tactics and stuff like that. Midnight Sapphire, thank you for the tier 1. I appreciate it. Wait, is it not full voice? I thought it was supposed to be full voice acting for the main story. Maybe it's not. I mean, I'm fine either way, honestly. For pixel games, I don't think voice acting is... It's very optional, I feel, for pixel games, you know? The sprite animations are amazing. This could be a side quest, that's why it's not voiced, maybe. I think Fina's design's really cute.
Give me the strength to protect my
This is not
friends.
good. This'll get them.
Oh. Hold on.
Leave it to me. Seriously? Here!
My turn. Lend me your strength!
Well then. Hear me, Vision. There, that got
Better
them.
cure this. This is gonna be good.
Yeah, this ultimately looks really great. The sprite work is so solid.
What?
And?
I was like comparing this game visually to Octopath the other day,
I've got
and
All right. The
personally
power of wills.
speaking, this game is just so much more my taste visually than the Octopath games are.
My turn.
In part because I think the Octopath games aren't as vibrant as BE. I feel like they're like a little bit more, or Resident, sorry. It's a little bit like more like washed out looking than this is.
This is for you.
Let's see.
Blitz saying, I like that it's turn-based. I hope slow and speed magic can be affected a lot, like in E33. Yeah, me too. Me too. I hope it's a regular old quick attack game. I can, like, abuse haste or something like that. We have turn order at the top, too, if you guys haven't noticed.
My turn. Leave it to me. Here I go. Sing us a song, Siren.
Negative status effects in Octopath are usable on almost all enemies, including bosses. See, and people say Octopath is a Final Fantasy. No, it's
Now
not.
then. This is the one.
Or Mustang, thank you for the super chat. Have you seen DQ3 HD2D? Yeah, DQ3 HD2D looks really good. Basically, I think that like all of the DQ and now FF Resonance, I think they both look better than Octopath
It's my turn.
artistically to me. The main difference is Octopath invokes 16-bit sprite work, and these are trying to invoke 32-bit sprites. That makes sense. And I think that Brave Exvius' sprite work has always been like really incredible.
What should I do? I've got you.
Well, hear me.
That being said, I really do think it's funny that this girl's name is Lid.
Then some.
And you guys thought Mid was funny. From the creators of Mid, Lid.
Let's do this thing.
Sid, Mid, Lid, Kid, Lidolphus.
My turn.
Here I go.
The difference for me with DQ and this versus Octopath or Triangle is how brown everything is in the latter. It just looks unappealing to me. No, I agree. I agree. I think DQ and FF Resonance look so much better than Octopath.
Holy right.
Yeah. Not just in the sprite works, as it was forementioned, but as you mentioned with the colors. I feel like Octopath is like really brown, and also the lighting is like a little. I'm not a big fan of how they use some of the lighting in Octopath. I was looking at the BE sprites as I expected them to just be ported over wholesale. Nah, these are completely new sprites, which I was genuinely surprised by. Really? That seems almost unnecessary, but that's super cool that they did that.
My turn. Your will is my power.
Octopath also has very garish or too high contrast colors, like lots of pure black pixels against super bright pixels with high contrast and low saturation sometimes. Yeah. Wait, are the visions not voiced in English? No, which I think was kind of an L.
I will protect you all.
Let's see. Have some.
I'm not over yet.
Aim and I got a dream to fight for. Got him good.
Well then.
So are the visions basically like personas? Yeah, they've likened them to personas or JoJo stands.
My turn. How about this?
What to do?
Yeah, this is a game that I don't think needs voice acting, but it's cool that it's there.
What should I do?
I might do English voice acting to just be lazy about it, but like, I'd probably do the Japanese because
That seems effective.
All right.
some of the English is questionable here. I don't know what the Japanese sounds like,
Where do you think you're going?
Here I go. This'll get me.
but we'll see.
There, that got
I'm not even looking at the main characters. I just keep looking at Terra, Cloud, and Jadon. Yeah.
Bonus time! My turn!
I do, and I understand like why they wanted to do this and keep the visions in there. But I'm kind of just like, yeah, I do wish that the Legacy FF characters were in there so that this could
Guys,
be taken seriously as its own thing
Now's our chance!
rather than, you know, FF nostalgia slot, which I'm tired of. They did confirm the 16 characters will be in it. Wait, are there going to be 16 visions? It's not 16 visions, but XVI visions.
Well, let's keep moving.
Red Mustang, thank you for the super. Combat looks mid, really? In what way?
visions.
I think it looks like pretty good quality turn-based combat. Kingdom Trigger, thank you so much for the big ol' super. Do you agree that outside of Resonance, all other English VA and FF is great? Tactics, 7R, 1614, this is really a bummer because a good VA distinguishes FF from other JRPGs as a premium series. No, I 100% agree. I think the overwhelming majority of the Final Fantasy series has great voice acting. I think even the older English dubs like Final Fantasy X, if you compare Final Fantasy X to other games of the era, Final Fantasy X's voice acting is actually really superb. And sometimes people dismiss FF10's VA from the POV of modernity and what games are supposed to sound like right now. But go listen to Devil May Cry 1 in English. You know? And I assure you, you'll realize like how good like Final Fantasy X's voice acting is. Pretty much every other game released within that like first few years of like, you know, Final Fantasy X's voice acting, especially consider like the extreme circumstances that they were under with recording it. It's crazy how good it actually turned out. So I agree that what makes Final Fantasy stand out is that how much effort that they put into English voice acting. Whereas, yes, a lot of other JRPGs, I don't think this is the case anymore because the Persona series, for example, puts incredible amounts of work into its English voice acting and such. So for the most part, I think that this is kind of like scaled up over time for all Japanese companies in terms of how good their English dubs are. But I think that Final Fantasy has like the best English dubs in JRPGs for the most part. You know, there's a reason that Final Fantasy creates careers for voice actors a lot of times, like puts them on the map in a big way. I mean, you know, look at how Ben Starr's career, for example, got revolutionized by him being casted in Final Fantasy 16. And now Ben Starr is the voice of everything. Ray Chase was also a similar situation with Noctis, right? And then Ray Chase was also the voice of everything for a while. So, yeah, I mean, I do think that that FF has always had great English voice acting. Persona, also great English voice acting. I think most other JRPGs are starting to take it pretty seriously. I think Trails had really solid English voice acting, at least from when I played it. I mean, I'm almost finished with Sky Remake, but yeah. Had great English voice acting. But yeah, sometimes, to be honest, it's just hard to dub some characters in English because English and Japanese are so different, and some vocal inflections just don't exist in English and should not be done, like Vanille. But then again, with Vanille, and I played all of Final Fantasy 13 in Japanese, but Vanille is a character that is much more understood in Japanese, but I still don't think that makes Vanille. I still don't think she should have been like that. I still don't think it should have been like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, Vanille makes more sense as a character in Japanese, but I still am like, I wouldn't have done that personally. Kingdom Trigger, thank you for the super. I think that the dialogue in 7R still sounds more natural than Persona games. That's just my opinion. It does, but that's because the dialogue in 7R is meant to sound more natural and real. That's not just in the English, that's also in the Japanese as well. One thing you have to consider about dialogue and kind of like what makes Final Fantasy series stand out a little bit from maybe other JRPGs is that most JRPGs are pulling from anime and manga, right? And so that's what influences their character design, their characters like vocal direction, both in English and in Japanese, right? However, Final Fantasy is somewhat Western in the sense that FF pulls more from cinema than it does necessarily anime and manga in terms of how it presents its story and how it presents its characters. And so FF tends to use more film-like cinema dialogue, which tends to emulate more real life or more practically real dialogue than, say, what a lot of more anime-influenced works do. Roy Mustang, thank you for the super. I only saw the player use offensive spells and the occasional heal throughout the boss fight. No buff/debuffs, no turn order/status manipulation. I mean, that's Final Fantasy like 1 through 9, but also it could just be IGN too. So but thank you for the super. I appreciate it. I get what you're saying, but everyone in FF7 comes across as anime to me. They are pretty anime in expression for sure. But I mean, that being said, it's still a lot more rooted in more film-like dialogue than, say, like if you compare like Trails in Persona to FF7, you can tell that they have more manga/anime dialogue than, say, FF7 does. And that's not to say that FF7 doesn't have its anime moments too, but it's more to say that like something like FF7 is kind of a hybrid of being more anime and being more film-like. Does that make sense? But also too, I think that the Western lens on things is that if something isn't something that someone would actually say in real life, then it's bad dialogue. And I don't think that's the Japanese perception of dialogue, because to them, it's an animated character and it should say the things that animated characters would say. Whereas like the Western lens on it is like, because we are, looking at a piece of reality, like a fictional lens on like real life, it should emulate exactly what people would say in real life. Neither one of those ideas is correct, by the way. They're just different styles and different ways that, East and West look at things. Final Fantasy tends to be somewhere in between that, where it's like there's a sense of reality, but there's also like a sense of this is bigger than life and bigger than reality. And yes, it is animated and it is colorful and over the top. And so it's right there in between those things. So 13 sucked. It's a corridor sim. Looks at 10, one of the most well-received games in modern history. Really, bruh? Well, have you ever asked yourself why? People love that zinger, and no one follows up with like, wait, why is that the case? Why is it that 10 also has corridors, but people aren't as critical of it? Do people just like the number 10 more than they like the number 13? Or are there other supporting design choices, including better level design, including better pacing, including better storytelling, that maybe perhaps support Final Fantasy X and make the linearity not nearly as harsh as, say, what is presented in Final Fantasy XIII, right? Have you ever considered any of those things as for why there is a difference between the two? Or do people just like repeating, why do you hate 13? 10 also has corridors. I don't think anyone likes to think beyond the idea that there's a psyop that's happening for their favorite game. And that's why. And there's nothing deeper. There's nothing deeper to that other than the surface level criticism. I mean, 10 also came out a decade before 13. I don't think it would have changed much. I think 10 would have still been like roughly received the same because the actual design of 10's linearity is superior, right? It's sort of like saying Elden Ring is open world and Final Fantasy 15 is open world. So why do people hate Final Fantasy 15? It's just like Elden Ring. What do you mean? All right. So, Roy Mustang, thank you for the super chat. I don't think a single character in FF7 has more natural dialogue than Yosuke, Naoto, Dojima from Persona 4. I vehemently disagree. Especially, like, for example, like, I think most of Tifa's dialogue is pretty natural, for example. I think that, like, yeah, I would say that most of her lines are more natural than, say, Yosuke. I agree that Dojima's dialogue is all pretty natural. But again, the Western sense of dialogue and the Japanese sense tend to be different because the language is different and the culture is different. And so, yeah. Kingdom Trigger, thank you for the super. Also, if you're going to sacrifice an open map to focus on more story, most people enjoy 10's narrative to 13's, right? That's the thing, right? When you do that type of linear game and the story becomes the only focus of the game, then the story has to deliver. And if people feel even a little bit like the story is not delivering, then they hate the whole fucking thing. Of course they do. So yeah. Speaking of Dojima and P4, though, we all prepare for his and Nanako's social links to be fully voiced and have our heartbreaks. Yeah, actually, this is like one of my favorite things about Persona 3 Reload and why I think despite all the criticisms, it's still kind of the best narrative experience for Persona 3's story because of how much the voice acting actually adds to the characters and the world of Persona 3. So, I'm pretty excited for that to happen to P4. Sometimes Persona has lines like, they said the body was hanging on an antenna. What did they mean by that? Not very natural, right? But it also kind of doesn't matter much because they're manga characters. And manga characters are... They're manga characters, right? Western comic books also have this thing too, right? Like, if you ever read Western comic book dialogue out, it's not like... It's also not the type of shit that people typically say out loud. I don't read Western comics that much, but generally speaking, from what I've seen, it's not the same as what people say out loud, right? Saying stuff out loud is different than how it reads um in stuff. But yeah, I don't mind that personally. But that is what I mean, right? They say ridiculous shit in Persona all the time, but it sounds cool because that's what it is. It's stylized characters, and so they have stylized voices that match those stylized characters, right? There is a way to make it sound good and cool, and ultimately what matters is if it sounds natural in the emotional impactful scenes rather than like the moment to moment. So Night Sky needs to try the Xenoblade Chronicle games. I played them. I finished one, and then I got a decent way through three, and I didn't finish it. Xenoblade games are really good. They do not have combat that is suited for my enjoyment, but I think that they're still really good RPGs, though. I still really respect what they are, but the combat system is not for me. It's just not. I just don't like the tap target, like micromanaging all these mechanics, and most of which I don't really find fun in isolation, which I know might be a hot take, but it's still what I consider a very good series. And I don't dislike it. And I don't even necessarily hate the combat. I just don't think it's something that, at least for me personally, is what I'm looking for when I sit down to play a game. It'd probably resonate with me more if it was fully turn-based or fully action or something else in between. But the tab target, like, hit the positional, run to the next one, and then I'm like, it's doable enough to get like a really compelling story and some great characters, though. Metaphor was interesting from an English VA perspective, having the usual anime manga tropes woven with the more grounded high fantasy elements and voice acted by classically trained British theater actors. Some of those speeches and monologues still give me chills. 100%. Metaphor was so baller about that. I feel the same. It could be great, but it's too simple. I think it's better than FF14 combat. Yeah, I'd probably agree. And honestly, I'm not super big into combat in 14 either. The combat is kind of a means to an end to get to the story in 14. It never. I'm just like, eh. It just never like really clicks for me. Roy Mustang, thank you for the super. Do you remember the scene when Chie freaks out over the lightning and thunder in class, where you can lightly tap her on the back? Do you really think there's a convo in FF7 Remake that is more natural? I think it's about the same, honestly. Like most of the scenes in P4, if I'm real with you. I don't know if I would say that like that 7R is like less natural than a Persona game or more natural. Maybe slightly more natural. FF7R has some scenes, but like, yeah. But also, I don't think it's important to have a natural off. I don't think that. I just think dialogue needs to sound cool and interesting. Natural is not even necessarily like. It just needs to hit. Naturalness is a tool to make the dialogue feel good and feel compelling, but I actually don't think it's a requirement. Sometimes a character saying some ridiculous shit that no one would say in real life is actually based as fuck and makes it sound more hard. You know, like Metaphor being a good example. It's like theater dialogue. No one actually fucking says that. Most of the shit in like Final Fantasy 12, 14, 16, most people ain't talking that poetic, dog. Most of that flowery language, no one's actually saying that shit or has said that shit. They're talking like a fucking poem. No one says that. But you know what? It sounds cool as shit. And so I think the idea that what sounds the most natural, and natural necessarily being like prioritizing this is exactly what people say in real life, is not even necessarily like the number one thing. Again, it's a tool to make something impactful, but I don't think that every thing and every scene that a character says has to be like natural. It just has to land and be cool and fucking goated. And like feel like, yeah. And make me as like a 14-year-old think that it's like the coolest fucking shit ever, you know, if I'm like hypothetically, you know, or like when I was a teenager, thinking about that stuff. Is there any thing as funny as Persona as the perfect delivery of Cloud's cool to Yuffie and Rebirth? I don't find most JRPGs funny at all. Thank you so much for the super chat, Kingdom Trigger. Yeah, you know, like Cloud's like not interested. That shit's cool as fuck, right? And you're thinking about it as an adult that's scrutinizing everything from like the perspective of like, in like I would not say not interested in real life. No one fucking cares. We know you wouldn't. This also isn't reality, bro. And it's cool as fuck when Cloud says not interested. Kyle Say Stuff, thank you so much for the super. I'm Chinese and we played FF7 on Japanese OG dub, and they've been dubbing for 20 years, and we really like the dialogue, and we think the English is a bit weird, not acting, but also the translation is different. Thank you so much. I mean, I guess it just depends on, you know, it's a matter of perspective for sure. I personally really enjoy FF7 in both languages. I think it sounds really great in both languages. I don't know how much more natural it sounds in Japanese, because having like an actual understanding of how natural something sounds is kind of difficult for me at the moment. But honestly, I think the English dub of 7R is superb, and I would probably put it above the run-of-the-mill JRPG for voice acting. Razzle Dazzle, thank you so much. I'm just giving you some money for the lulz. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. You're the best. My goat. I was really happy when I heard Koji Fox admit that he went overboard on the flowery language in 14. He even learned that saying must needs all the time is pretty cringe. Yeah. The flowery language in 14 is good up to a point, and that point was basically everything. Well, everything after Heaven's Word and after is okay, but I think A Realm Reborn was so steeped in it at some points that I was just like, what the fuck are they saying? This is like incomprehensible. I don't want to read this shit. But Creative Studio 3 games also have a unique problem for the FF series, where I cannot think of more dialogue bloated games, I feel like, than a lot of CS3's games. And don't get me wrong, they do have great dialogue and great scenes, but there is so many times in 14 and even 16 where I'm just like, this could have been 2 text boxes max, and you have stretched it out into like 20, and it just dialogue bloat is such an issue with their games. I feel like I'm just like, yo, why is this so bloated beyond fucking belief? Now, in their main scenes and their like actual like scenes, the dialogue is always amazing. It sounds good. I think that 14 and 16 are probably the best voiced, maybe Japanese games in English. But in terms of like how much dialogue there is sometimes, the CS3 games are bloated beyond fucking belief when it comes to that. Roy Mustang, thank you for the super. I really didn't find anything in Remake to be funny. I haven't played much of Rebirth. The omelet cook-off in P4 made me laugh out loud though. Yeah, I don't think much in Rebirth was a remake or a rebirth. I mean, there are a few things. I think the funniest thing that happens in Remake is actually early on. When Barrett basically asks how old Cloud is, and Cloud's like, first. And he's like, I meant your age, not your goddamn rank. I'm sorry. I still think about that scene, and I still think that scene's fucking funny. So I won't say that there's no funny scenes in Remake or Rebirth, because I still think that that is actually really fucking funny. Horchafon's death was peak in FF14. Jeez Louise, thank you so much for the super. I agree. Heaven's Word was incredible. I hope that Evercold is good. Kingdom Trigger, thank you so much for the super. I was more referring to Cloud saying cool and walking away from Yuffie's anime intro in Rebirth. That is, I know what you're talking about now. Like when she's about to join the party. Yeah. That shit was really funny. That is genuinely funny, and most other JRPGs aren't funny at all. 7R's jokes actually land. No, I actually agree. I'd actually probably say that, actually now that I think about it, I think that some of 7R's moments have actually genuinely made me laugh more than Persona's, if I'm honest. Because I do feel like Persona kind of rehashes a lot of the same humor. Like, lol, the girls in the party can't cook. How many times are y'all going to do that trope? Like, I'm so fucking tired of that shit. If P6 has like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, the girls in the party can't cook trope again, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. Like that shit is so overplayed. They've done that like, I want to say 3 times. 3, 4, and 5 all have that. I'm like, if they do that shit again, it's not gonna be funny. Yeah, Persona humor is a little bit more anime tropey. Yeah, I'd probably say that. I think that most 7R's humor is probably more funny to me than I think Persona's humor is. Because a lot of Persona's humor is like, whatever. They kind of, a lot of the jokes are like the same joke that you've seen in even Metaphor did it with Hulkenberg. Oh yeah, you're right. I'm so tired of that trope. This shit is not funny. I do think a lot of P4 does have some funny moments though. Much more so than 5, I would say. Well, no. I did think of one moment with 5 that did make me laugh. It was kind of crazy. It's when An comes into the room with Yusuke, and she has like 20,000 sweaters on. That was pretty wild. Yeah. That shit did kind of crack me up. Okay. I think we can call it a stream here. I want to say. We're going to be back on Monday with Pitios. I don't know who yet, but I do want to try to have a guest on next week. So I'll figure that out. But that won't be Monday. That'll probably be like maybe even like middle of the week. Because yeah, but I do want to have like a guest. Maybe I'll try to get Daryl from Final Fantasy Union, but I can't promise it'll be him, but I am gonna try to get him. Jarrett's gonna be a little tough because Australian time versus American Central Time, so that might be a little difficult, but we'll see what we can make happen. If possible. Okay, let's raid somebody. Oh my god, Unileska's playing Lost Odyssey? Let's raid her. Okay, so we'll raid Unileska. Oh wait, Jeek, is that how you say it? Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. New Zealand, you mean? Oh, I thought it was Australia. My bad. I got it. I got my countries mixed up. Okay, love you guys so much. Please take care, and I'll see you all on Monday. Later, people. Peace.